Hey everyone, how y'all doing? We are back. As usual, I have my tea at the ready. Some Earl Grey with lemon. I am I'm trying to redeem myself after the truly awful cup that I made over the weekend of the same. I have no idea what I did. I don't know what happened. It just was super bad, and we're trying to rectify that. So hopefully this one comes out well. I don't know what I did. My guess is I just didn't put enough of the actual tea. When this is cooler, we'll try it. Though, given how warm it is today, it might still be the same temperature by the time I end stream. That said, my thought for today, I didn't really have like anything specific that was coming up. Not like the pressing matters that we had gotten to. So I figured, you know what? Let's just do some debate review. And so I went looking for a neat debate to go over. Obviously, didn't watch it. I'm not a filthy pre-watcher over here. And you know what? I found another flat Earth debate. Now I know we don't, tend not to go over the same type of debate too too much. I don't want to just be like, all right, well we're doing 12 flat Earth debates or whatever. However, the last time there were like no arguments, even for flat Earth, even by flat Earth uh, standards. There was just nothing. The flat Earth guy just didn't have anything to say. So we'll see if that's endemic. I have seen flat Earth debates where they have arguments. They're bad arguments, but they have them. The last guy had actual nothing. So we'll see, and we'll get upset, and we'll have fun. That's the plan. Does that sound good to everybody? Sounds good to me. So let's see what we got. Let me switch the view here because I think that should be a lot better. All right, go away. All right, let's find where this thing starts. Oh, we've got a PowerPoint. Oh, strap in, folks. We've got PowerPoints here. All right, let's go.
Ones there. But
I don't
onwards
know
with
who
the
either of these
debate,
people
we
are.
have a
Enjoy live
snippet of.
music, so you should probably record it with different equipment. Just kind of an. Okay, so I'm not really here to like
Okay,
try to present some overwhelming evidence that the Earth is a sphere.
that seems odd in a flat Earth
But
debate,
I'm going
but
to go
okay.
through a few pieces. Our planet's spherical nature has been thoroughly studied and observed and proven over time and again, by countless scientists, explorers, and even ordinary people.
So, a couple of things here. One, I like this approach. This was the thing I was criticizing from the last globe head presenter. Was not a specific with not specific examples of things you can do to determine the shape of the Earth, so much as pointing broadly to the expansive evidence. Obviously, you have to do both. You do have to point broadly to like even if this specific thing is something that you pretend that there's a problem with, there is a wealth of data outside of that. So you have to do both, and I'm glad that he's gonna lead into that. But I also paused because I wanted to talk about framing because we do that a lot. Remember, this isn't just there's a lot of stuff that goes into a debate that is not just the things people say, and that is who is beginning this debate. Now, the topic of discussion, as presented here, is just flat Earth versus globe, and so each of the positions are considered on an even playing field. I think this is understandable if overly charitable to the conspiracist position that is the flat Earth. What that means and what we should expect is that both should provide evidence for their position, and it doesn't really matter who speaks first. However, flat earthers often operate as though they are taking the mere negation position, as if proving that the Earth is not a globe is the same as proving that the Earth is flat, which it isn't. Even if you could disprove the globe model, you can't, but sure, let's suppose you could. We could just as easily say the Earth is a cube and not flat, or a cylinder, right? There are a million shapes that it could be. Why do we default to flat, right? But they often act as though that is how it will work. Now they don't say it out loud. It's just we'll see if this Austin guy actually does it, how that actually manifests. It's usually in the frame of just disprove globe, therefore flat, but that's not how that should work. So it's not a problem that the globe model person is necessarily speaking first. Both should have the burden of proof, but maybe it would be better. Like I prefer in general that the flat earther should have to present their case because it denies them the ability to just say what you said is wrong. And remember, they are proposing the outlandish position, not the globe model proponent. And even if the globe model proponent is is it does have like a burden of proof, they both do. It doesn't absolve the flat earther, right? So I just want to make that very clear. Oh, hey, Kim Gal. Oh, I'm glad you like these. All right, so I've already talked for many minutes after having heard about 10 seconds, so we're off to a great start. Let's go.
So let's explore a little bit of the evidence.
Let's
First
indeed.
and foremost, let us consider the observations of our early explorers, Ferdinand Magellan. Him and his crew embarked on their famous circumnavigation voyage in the 16th century. They sailed westward, ultimately returning to their starting point. And this monumental achievement clearly demonstrates that the Earth is not flat, but a curved.
Well, okay, so we're off to a bad start. That doesn't actually prove a globe. Flat Earth models, if you remember, we'll pull them up. This is where like it's kind of important to know what your opponent is likely to believe. On a flat Earth model, you can circumnavigate the world just going around the edge, right? You can do that. It doesn't have to be spherical to do that. Now, he's probably thinking of the flat Earth model as being a square, like a square that like you can fall off the edge of or whatever. But no, like flat earthers don't believe that because if it were like this shape, then yes, you could travel. Well, I guess far enough, and then you wouldn't be able to circumnavigate. You'd fall off the edge or whatever. But in this model, you can do all of the same. Now, it has a different problem in that, well, if you'll notice, the Pacific Ocean is way bigger than it actually is, and so making that journey would be insane and impossible. But you could make the argument that instead they cut across from, say, I know you can't see my mouse, it's really unfortunate, like from the Cape at the south of South America, and then like right by California as they go to Australia. So like that doesn't actually prove anything in the context of flat Earth. It's kind of a bad start.
Surface. But if it were flat, Magellan and his crew would have fallen off.
That's only
To grab
presuming
the
that they're going
opportunity
in
to
a
travel
straight
long
line,
distances, whether it be
which they
across
weren't.
continents or vast bodies of water, you'll notice an intriguing phenomenon that the disappearance of ships over the horizon. This is
This
probably
is good
something that people
evidence.
have talked a lot about. As the ships sail away from the shore, it gradually disappears from the view. Only the mast really remains visible. Same thing happens if you're on a ship sailing away.
And I like
As
this
in a navy for a
example
long
because it's
time,
something
seen this
people can go check
quite a
for
few times.
themselves if
The
they live
appearance is
near a
consistent with the
sufficiently
curvature of
large
the Earth,
body
and
of
if
water.
the Earth were flat, the entire ship would remain visible regardless of the distance.
Now, of course, like again, familiarity with flat earthers. Flat earthers will tend to say that that's just how eyes work. That you can only see so far. But the fact that the ship disappears bottom up and not just like shrinks until you can't see it anymore, it does indicate a difference in shape of the Earth. Oh, is YouTube gonna do that thing where when I pause or go back, it's gonna load? YouTube, no, please. Okay, thank you.
Direct visual evidence that we live on a spherical planet. Another compelling piece of evidence comes from the study of gravity. Gravity, as
Okay,
we
much
know, force attracts objects towards the center of the mass.
Flat Earthers' views on
It acts
gravity is
uniformly in all directions,
buck
creating a
wild.
balanced.
I am very curious to see what Austin will say about it. I'll preempt what Malachi is saying by I'll just let you know what flat earthers have to say about gravity is nonsense in the most charitable in the best case. They think it's weird of like they think gravity seem I shouldn't say they in general because it's like one of the more contentious things I've seen from flat earthers, but it seems to be like there is some special property to the direction of down in which that things move in, and this is like a cosmic universal down, and that's why things get pulled there. This is why they're like, oh, you think people are just like hanging on for their lives on the other side of the globe. And there's sort of jokes about Australians needing tethers to hold them to the planet or whatever. But like they don't understand that it is attraction to the center of a sufficiently large body, which means that for people to stand on the Earth, the center of gravitational attraction would basically have to be inside of a sphere. I think that's what he's getting at. But well, we'll see what this flat earther wants to say about gravity, because they cannot wrestle with it. The amount of things that flat earthers have to throw out to maintain their view includes things as obvious as gravity. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try to pause less because it
on a
seems
sphere, which is why you weigh roughly the same absolutely everywhere on the planet. Although there are some slight variations, it could go like into higher
the weight
altitudes, but
is
that
not
actually
really
tracks
relevant to them.
with how gravity has been modeled to operate. So yeah, consistent nature of the Earth means you get gravity all over the place. Lunar
Yeah, but
eclipses,
see that like a lot of them would say, well, it's because things get pulled down, and it doesn't matter where you are, you get pulled down with the same force, so you should have the same weight everywhere. Yeah.
Is a clear indication that the Earth is a sphere. During a lunar eclipse, the Earth comes between the sun and the moon, casting its shadow on the moon's surface.
This is a good example,
the
though.
shadow is always round, regardless
Depending,
of the orientation.
I guess it depends on the flat earther again, because if you use this model, the finite disk, then oh well, you should be able to see a circular shadow on the moon, except you shouldn't see it from everywhere if the Earth were flat like this. But the last guy we heard apparently believes that past the ice wall is an infinite plane, in which case, literally, how could you get a lunar eclipse? So like, this is one of those. This is also a problem of like trying to like, because you want to present evidence for the globe that is also like that also contradicts the flat model, which is again like an issue of speaking first as the globe model proponent. Is you're trying to argue against the only other argument people make about the shape, as opposed to just like proving it's well, I guess no, that's not true, because this should prove the shape irrespective of what you think. No, I actually, as I'm saying that, no, what I'm saying is completely wrong. Yeah, it's just so difficult because like flat earthers will just say absolute wild shit to hold to their view.
The position of the observer. The only explanation for this is a consistent round shadow. Of this consistent round shadow is that the Earth itself must be spherical. There's also photographic evidence, lots of stuff from space. You can see the curvature.
That's good evidence for the people who aren't completely into the conspiracy, but obviously flat earthers reject all of that. They think NASA is like a conspiracist organization.
Those images all
that's
come
like the cabal.
To reveal a beautiful blue sphere with recognizable continents, oceans, and cloud formation.
Often they just say it's Photoshop in response
centuries
to
of
that.
Scientific exploration and observation have already proven the Earth is a sphere.
But it's a good mix. I do like Malachi's approach. Like, it's a good mix of pointing to evidence broadly, plus observations that are understandable to a layperson, and those observations vary from you could literally go do this to scientists have been able to show like more evidence. I do like the cross section of examples that he's using here.
Change a little bit because I don't want to be boring to myself.
Yeah, fair.
On a second note, rather than having like a strict, hard debate, I'm not really sure you're going to get that from me. What you're going to get is a launch of inquiry into the understanding of this perspective. I find it pretty intriguing, and I hope that this is a pretty relaxed and productive debate so that people can understand each other a little bit
hoping
better.
For productivity in a flat earth debate is
all right. Thank you so much for that, Malachi.
Well, let's say it's ill-fated.
You, Austin, for your up to 10-minute opening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, here's the flat earth presentation. Let's go.
Breeze through this
we got a 101 course. I'm ready to learn. Get your pens ready. Let's take notes.
Right, so flat earth 101. So let's cover some basics of debate.
I'm so stupid. I even picked up a pen when I said
this
that.
Conversation. Falsification is
it's not showing
example,
all of it.
You think you have biological parents. They actually adopted you. You find the evidence you were adopted. They don't become your real parents until you find out who your real parents are. Falsified that they're your biological parents until you find out who they really are. So falsification is independent of replacement.
I did not understand that
at
all.
The one making the positive claim.
Yeah. So as a note, so that second point is correct, but as I mentioned at the beginning of this, the framing of this debate should require both of them to make to have a burden of proof. We'll see if the flat earther agrees with that. He might think his is the default position, but no, it's not. There is no default position here. I gotta stop pausing. YouTube keeps loading every time I restart it. I don't know why it does this, and it only does it sometimes. Come on, buddy. I believe in you. You got this. That is not helping whatsoever. YouTube, please. Alright, 6:37. I have no idea why it does this. And it only happens sometimes. Uh-oh. Oh god, YouTube, please. I beg of you. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. No, not changing anything.
Example.
Okay, there we go.
You think you have biological parents. They actually adopted you. You find the evidence you were adopted. They don't become your real parents until you find out who your real parents are. You falsified that they're your biological parents until you find out who they really are. So falsification is independent of replacement.
Yeah, I still don't understand
what
any of that
claim,
means.
And the shifting the burden of proof is the fallacy of putting the burden of proof on the person who denies or questions the assertion being made, which is very important in this discussion. For example,
so as a note about that, you shouldn't be shifting the burden of proof, but also Malachi opened with his proof. This is part of the problem with overly scripted openings, in particular when you have a PowerPoint, is like he's going to go on, it seems, at length about shifting burden of proof. His opponent has provided evidence and arguments for his position. He has accepted the burden of a burden of proof, but also Austin has one, and he's just not. He's going to waste time not meeting it.
Dinosaurs and rockets go to space and unicorns exist. And you say, I read it in a book. You're making a positive claim. You say, look, I have a picture of a unicorn.
The immense irony of this is that flat earthers are very often extreme Christians who are like, well, it's a biblical model of the earth. So there's just incredible irony it being like, oh, just because you read it in a book and it doesn't mean it's true if it's fantastical.
Don't prove anything, but if you make the positive claim, you have the burden of proof. Oftentimes what happens is flat earth is strawmanned with incredibly egregious and inept representations of the actual position.
Again, an issue with over-scripting your opening. Malachi did not do that at all. In fact, Malachi, to his credit, did not talk about the flat earth model at all. He gave his opponent the opportunity to lay out what view of flat earth he has, and instead exclusively spoke to the burden of proof that he's assuming, which is proof that the earth is in fact a sphere, or an oblate spheroid, I guess, is a globe. So again, like over-scripting, this is an over-scripting problem where his opponent just didn't do that. His opponent literally just presented the evidence for his position, to his credit.
This is called a straw man fallacy. Why don't you fall off the edge of your space pizza? Attacking a misrepresentation of the other person's argument, which was
I guess there was one statement about that, about like Magellan circumnavigating the Earth and going like, well, you would fall off. Except, is that really a straw man? Like, well, first of all, I think there's a problem with the argument as I went over, but I don't know that it's necessarily a straw man. Like, the flat Earth model necessitates that you can fall off the edge.
In his opener. Another fallacy I hope to avoid is
we just didn't have
fallacy,
this at all.
attacking the person
wasting
instead
time.
of the argument. Like flat earthers just.
But we're not exactly wasting time. We're also poisoning the well. He's implying that his opponent is going to do all of these things. That we're going to expect. I'm presenting it, therefore I won't be doing these things. But my opponent, well, I got to get it out of the way early because this is the kind of thing that'll happen. Is more or less what's occurring.
Don't understand basic science. Credentials fallacy pops up a lot.
And of course, like all the depictions of people who support the globe model as raving lunatics, in all these images. Again, it's pretty dishonest and almost an ad hominem, like not exactly, but
saying, well, your argument can be dismissed because the person asserting the argument doesn't have the proper credentials to make that argument. That's called credentials fallacy. The appeal to majority, an example would
this
be
is again what we
every
see
7
with
billion
like
people believe
people
the
with
Earth's
these
a ball, but
extremist
you think you're
positions
right.
that will
It's an argument for an unproved conclusion based
be
on the beliefs
pretty
of a large group of
insulting in their
people, which is
openings,
fallacious.
kind
Appealing
of
to the
baiting a reaction.
authority
Like, look
of
at this.
whoever
Look at
it
these
is that makes the
images.
claim is also, of course, a fallacy. All scientists agree. Another one that we get a lot of is poisoning the well, using ad hominem attacks to preemptively discredit the opponent. This is obviously fallacious.
And I love that, like, oh, you're poisoning the well to using ad hominem attacks to preemptively discredit the opponent. Literally what he's doing. Literally what he's just however long of his opening doing. It's literally the image on the other side. It's the thing he's doing right now.
And inadmissible in intellectual forum. All flat earthers are science denying religious conspiracy theorists, as an example. We also have the begging the question fallacy. One of the most popular fallacies in this discussion, hands down. Every single evidence I've ever been provided for the Earth being a sphere is something that begs the question that the Earth's a sphere. Every single one of them.
By the way, the argument presented on the other side, the globe model says the sun goes beneath the Earth, so the sunset proves the globe. First of all, that's not how that's presented. But the sunset is actually a massive problem for the flat Earth, because if you look at this model and you go, okay, well the sun sets. Like, let's say you're in actually Australia is a good example here. Let's say you're in Australia, the sun sets in the west, right? So it should be going over the edge of the horizon, which would be basically like south of India, right? If you extrapolate. But the problem is that's not where the sun goes. We know that it becomes day in other parts of the world, right? And so there are like weird models about this. We've talked about this last time, where the sun. Some flat earthers will say the sun like casts a cone of light, which why? And only, but like that cone still makes no sense, because it has to shine more brightly in certain directions than others. Because if it's going around the equator, you notice it has a lot more distance that it has to cover horizontally than it does vertically. Yeah, it's really, really weird. And we don't observe that the sun vanishes into the sky far away. We notice it goes over the horizon. So yeah, the sunset is actually a huge problem for flat earthers. But this is another avenue of argumentation. He is pretending as though it is already discredited. This is a thing that happens a lot with conspiracists. They'll like, look, he's acting like, oh, this is so ridiculous. This is an obviously stupid statement, even though it's not. It's a huge problem for them. But they're just like, oh, obviously. NFT bros do this all the time. Like, they'll just hand wave, oh, it's a pyramid scheme. Sure, like, it's ridiculous to say that, even though it's accurate. Ironically, a kind of begging the question, but one step removed. I guess the longer I pause, the more likely we are to have this loading. How's everyone doing while we're waiting? I did do a much better job on the tea this time. I do think it was just I didn't put enough tea.
5-6 years into this,
Maybe I put too much lemon, though.
One piece of empirical evidence that supports the globe Earth, void of fallacious reasoning. I honestly don't think
I'm doing well, Cam.
But here's an example. The globe model says the sun goes beneath the Earth, so sunsets prove the Earth's a globe.
At the very least, it disproves the flat
Also,
Earth.
shifting the burden of proof, which we covered earlier. Say you show me a picture, like he alluded to, of the Earth being a ball from space, and I say, pictures can be faked. I don't buy that.
So he's saying pictures can be faked. Yeah, they can, but you have no evidence that this was faked. You're only rejecting it because it disagrees with you. It is reasonable for a person to present evidence, and then when that evidence is contested, to demand a reason for it to be rejected. That's not shifting the burden of proof. That's argumentation. Like, could you imagine how weird it would be if you got into an argument about something that maybe might seem trivial, like the sun sets in the west, right? Like, something that easy, and someone goes, no, it doesn't. And you're like, can you prove that it doesn't? And they said, you're shifting the burden of proof. I don't have to do that. Like, really understand how wild it is that he's suggesting this. You literally couldn't have argumentation at all if if you could reject any positive claim without justifying yourself. Now, people like this, he seems to think saying pictures can be faked is a justification, but it's insufficient. And everybody who's not a flat earther understands that.
Clouds all over the place. It's supposed to be a live image every 10 minutes or less. It takes 40 minutes for them to give it to us. I don't believe it. And then you say, prove the images from space are not real. Prove they're fake. You're shifting the burden on the person denying or
you're not. You're
assertion that that's a picture from a vacuum of the Earth being a ball. Okay, to get into specific this argument, everyone was taught the Earth's a ball from a young age, just like these children here are being indoctrinated.
Now we're getting it. Yeah, now we're getting to conspiracism. He's calling it indoctrination.
This is why everyone here that believes the Earth's a globe believes it. And if anyone's going to be honest, that is why people believe the Earth's a globe.
Now, this is only partially true. This is partly how education works. I think it's done too often in this way, where you're told a thing, you're expected to believe it, and you move on. Some things that works for, like basic facts of the world, I don't mind it when it comes to the shape of the Earth. But yeah, like we could do more in education to demonstrate these things. That said, again, Malachi gave a really good example of a thing you can do to demonstrate the shape of the Earth, and it's in fact one of the things that led people to inquiring about the shape of the Earth, or at the very least made people question it and try to prove it in the ancient world, which is ships go over the horizon. And that seems kind of weird that they disappear bottom up. What would account for that? Well, a curve would do that, and then we would go about proving it. And there are other things you can do as well. But of course, he's just calling it indoctrination. Notice he hasn't proven it. Like, he hasn't even tried to support a flat Earth position.
All flat earthers once believed the Earth was a globe. You were taught that. You were told to make a model of the solar system. Everyone assumes it.
Well, again, this is assumptions, not assumptions. This is based on things we've learned prior.
Someone navigated and proved it, and they're afraid.
What is going on with YouTube? I hope it's not my internet. I wasn't having any internet problems before. Am I dropping frames? Not dropping any frames. Yeah, I am not really sure. My internet seems to be okay.
Afraid to go against the majority. They simply blindly believe what they were taught as a child. Therefore, that is the majority positive claim here, as we were all told the Earth is a ball from a young age. So what does the globe Earth claim?
So by the way, that we're told a thing without justification doesn't make it false. It just means that the justification wasn't told to us.
Radius of 3,959 miles. Which, of course, has the burden of proof to substantiate that the Earth bends convexly at a rate consistent with that radius value.
So, by the way, that radius actually is completely irrelevant. You could really think about it. Like, we can demonstrate facts about the shape of the Earth, but let's say we're wrong about the radius. It's actually, say, 200 miles more or less. That wouldn't change anything about the shape, right? And Malachi, of course, didn't present anything about the specific radius of the Earth. It's not really relevant. It's more like trying to tack on like things of like you have to prove all this extra stuff that you really don't have to. And here we get another point of conspiracism, as you can read on the screen. It says the Earth is spinning at over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator while revolving around the sun 66,600 miles per hour, an axial tilt of 66.6 degrees. There is a huge amount of conspiracism in the flat Earth community regarding the number of the beast and demonic symbology and like, oh, isn't it coincidental that like that it's 666 or whatever. Like that number is as arbitrary as any number and obvious, and I would assume that it's an approximation, at least for both of these numbers. And they're not exactly that anyway, but we'll see if he mentions it. He's only shown this on screen. The Earth is spinning over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator while revolving around the sun 66,600 miles per hour on an axial tilt of 66.6 By the way, none of this is relevant. None of this is relevant for the shape of the Earth. These numbers could all be 100% wrong. It could be that the Earth is spinning at 5,000 miles per hour around the sun, but revolving around the sun at 2,000 miles per hour, an axial tilt of 80 degrees or whatever. None of that matters about the shape of the Earth. These are connected things in that we can learn additional things once we've established the shape of the Earth, but it is not requisite for the sphericity of the Earth.
This is a very specific.
These numbers could all be different.
No one here has ever
and the
felt
Earth
the
would
Earth
still be
spinning,
the same
nor is
shape.
there any empirical measurement for it. And the current model actually says, everything happens on the Earth as if it is at rest, to quote Einstein. So we need actual evidence of that claim. Claim number 3, the Earth's in a vacuum of space. You would have to support the fact
This
that
is
that's
also not, well, one, this is not unique. The flat Earth model, look, boom, there it is. Earth, vacuum of space. Now, some of them think there's like a firmament or whatever, but like whether the space is a vacuum or not also has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. And in this particular case, it's not unique to one model versus another. There could be a firmament, and not a vacuum in space, and the shape of the Earth would not change. We wouldn't have to say anything different about the shape of the Earth. There's no ramification to that. These are weird things to like saddle a burden on. And I'm sure if Malachi is to say these have nothing to do with the shape of the Earth, and he's like, oh, you're shifting the burden of proof. We'll see if that's what happens, but notice these are not challenges whatsoever. Additionally, he's doing the thing that I expected he would from the outset, which is we are most of the way through his opening at this point, and he hasn't made any arguments for the flat Earth. Notice he's only making he's alluding to it being impossible to prove a globe Earth to his satisfaction. But even if we could disprove the globe Earth, I could say it's a cylinder, and he wouldn't have proved otherwise. He wouldn't have proved that it's flat instead. He's acting as though and assuming that it's the default position, which it's not.
Been scientifically possible to have a gas pressure system sitting next to a vacuum. Just saying that's what it.
Oh, it is possible because of gravity, but that's a thing you
substantial.
often have a problem with.
The heliocentric model has the burden of proof for these.
We're not talking about
claims.
heliocentrism.
And believe it or not, this is a cartoon. This actually is not real, which is pretty much all we ever get from space.
Okay,
Cartoons
buddy.
for adults.
So for what it's worth, it's not relevant, but it is kind of convenient for him to be like, we only ever get cartoons from space and nothing else, when he rejects all of the photographic or video evidence. Like, there's other stuff, but he rejects all of it, and then he goes and says, well, all we get are cartoons.
Isn't saying the Earth is flat.
Oh, he's getting to it.
Claim.
Finally. He's going to try to prove his point, maybe?
So.
He's going to. Okay.
It is a positive claim.
Actually saying yes.
And I know a lot of people are probably already freaking on the chat, so I'm not reading it. He thinks he doesn't have to provide positive evidence for the flat Earth. Now, despite me about to do this for the remaining
you haven't,
4 minutes,
and it should be the
primary
thing your opening does.
For flat Earth, but that is cognitive dissonance. So.
Well, it's not cognitive dissonance. You haven't said anything that is proof. You've acknowledged that. But again, it's like attacking. Well, first of all, that's actually an ad hominem. He's saying you are engaging in cognitive dissonance, and that's the only reason you're rejecting my argument. But no, you haven't presented any evidence by your own admission, and you've spent most of your opening doing not that. It should have been the center point. Notice, by contrast, Malachi's opening was exclusively aimed at proving the shape of the Earth as a globe. None of this other stuff, just going to, here's the reason we can know it, here's the reason we can know this, here's the reason. Instead, we've engaged in almost every fallacy that he laid out that his opponent would be susceptible to engaging in. And maybe eventually we'll get to actual proof, but only after telling you that you're engaging in cognitive dissonance by pointing out that he hasn't proven anything.
Flat is the description of a surface. Flat is not a shape. We have the burden of proof to show that the surface of the Earth is flat, specifically a topographical plane. Flat's a description. You can have a flat square, triangle, circle. Flat's not a shape. To say that you're saying the shape of the Earth is flat really lacks specificity. And
okay, then you want to define what you mean by that?
In there, I definitely did. Okay, so we have the burden of proof to show that the surface of the Earth is flat, and this has been done. Let's check it out. Radio waves can be sent over 10,000 miles with no Earth curvature obstruction. When this was first done, they said, oh, it bounced off the ionosphere. That's why it went past the curvature of the Earth. They claimed that.
As I understand it, radio waves couldn't do that until relays were invented, and relays capture the signal and then rebroadcast it. That's my understanding. Maybe I'm incorrect about this. And if that's the case, then like no, then curvature like might be an issue there too. But my understanding is that there wasn't even a curvature issue. It was just the radio waves weren't strong enough to be detected past the distance that they were, and that's why they needed these relays. That's my understanding. Now maybe we have some solutions to that problem, but some of those are bouncing off of satellites or the ionosphere or whatever else.
That nothing over 40 megahertz
But also,
can go through the ionosphere.
This isn't like, given that there are competing explanations for this. This isn't really evidence for a flat Earth. This is, by the way, actually, this isn't evidence for a flat Earth whatsoever. It doesn't demonstrate the shape of the Earth so much as say, well, it's not round, right? He's basically saying it can be sent over 10,000 miles without curvature being a problem. So therefore, it's not round. But there are shapes that are not round that are not flat, right? You can say like we're on the top of a cylinder, or it's a cube, or whatever else, or it's a truncated sphere where it's like a semicircle, like a dome underneath, but a flat top or whatever. Which I think some flat Earth models actually have. Yeah, we can kind of see it here, though. But most of the time they don't have that.
World record radio propagation shows.
Also, notice he didn't define what he meant by flat. He just was like, "Yeah, flat's not a shape, so we have to figure out what we're talking about." That's been done. I'm not gonna tell you what like the model looks like.
Hertz frequencies up to 106 megahertz can go over 2,700 miles. That should be blocked by the curvature of the Earth around 200 miles. You can't study the ionosphere because it's too high of a frequency, debunks the globe. Shows the surface has to be
Notice
flat,
even his conclusion debunks the globe. All right, let's say I accept all of that. I don't. Let's say I do. All right, cool. Debunks the globe. Why is it flat? That's not proof that it's flat. It's proof that it's not a globe. Like, what if it's a extremely long dome, right? Where, you can get something like that kind of traversal, but you can't, but it's still curved. Actually, what if it's just like a very, very long one-sided dome?
Connolly. Magnetic declination is required to correct for the inaccuracy of the symmetrical spherical assumption when navigating. The typo. As you can see in the south, it's not symmetrical to the north, which makes no sense on the sphere until you understand that the south is much bigger on the plane Earth, and they have to do this to account for the discrepancies, well documented by the world.
Or that there's a lot more going into it. And I don't know enough about the magnetic field. This is another problem with conspiracists, is they'll often talk about subjects that are way beyond a layperson's understanding. And don't get me wrong, it's way beyond his understanding too. But you would need to be an expert to disprove it, where you don't have to be an expert to make up lies. I can make up whatever I want without being an expert in it. It's very easy, in fact, to say things that aren't true when you're not an expert.
Actually explored in expeditions out south. All right. So here's some examples. They found themselves off 12 to 16 miles by observation.
Oh, and again, that also only disproves a globe and doesn't prove a flat Earth.
Every day.
At best, it alludes to maybe a flat Earth, but he's never extrapolating to the flat Earth conclusion, only stopping at not globe.
They were off 58 miles in 2 days. This is the United States exploring expedition, also off 20 miles in less than 18 hours. When they went south, it didn't work. That's actually
no idea
evidence
what that even was.
The assumption of the sphere is incorrect. Here's a military document for ground weapon systems called propagation.
And it's not an assumption of the sphere. There are things you can do to prove
electromagnetic fields over a flat Earth. It, of course, assumes the Earth's a dielectric plane, shoots electromagnetic waves out horizontally.
Hold on. We finally have something even approximating an explanation of what his worldview is. What he said, dielectric plane. I think I got the word wrong. Dialectic plane? What does that mean? What does that mean? Hold on. I think I got the word wrong.
Over flat Earth. It, of course, assumes the Earth's a dielectric plane.
Dielectric, excuse me. I did get it wrong. Well, that's all way over my head. Okay, never mind. That's all, like, alright. He probably doesn't know what that means either.
Shoots electromagnetic waves out horizontally to hit the target and attack the enemy. So this literally doesn't work unless you assume the waves are being propagated out horizontally on a plane. So of course, when it comes to actually having to get the bad guy,
Oh, and by the way, at small scales, like the scales that armies would be dealing with, yeah, the Earth is mostly flat. Like it's approaching flat.
military knows they have to assume the Earth is flat. Same here for the computationally efficient algorithms for estimating the angle of arrival of helicopters. Can't even accurately land using acoustic rays unless you assume the Earth is flat. Same for the derivation.
So again, like, I think it's at a distance of about, so you can see about 3 miles out without the horizon being an issue. So for a diameter of about 6 miles, or I guess we'll say we'll just say a radius of 3 miles, because from the edges of that diameter you have a problem. But for a radius of about 3 miles, you can basically operate as though the Earth is flat and get workable results. Do you think that when helicopters land, they have to deal with that they have to concern themselves with areas greater than 3 miles?
Definition of a linear aircraft model. People say they do this just to make the math simpler. Well, that's weird. If the Earth's a tilted, wobbling, spinning ball, why don't we just account for what it actually is? I thought that...
Well, because you can approximate things. This is why physics, when you are taught physics in school, you don't have to factor in wind resistance and friction and all this other. You're taught to do it in a frictionless vacuum, just because it's easier to understand, and the things you're adding in don't actually help you, even though they would make things more accurate.
Scientists knew all about the math, and that's what proves the globe. Another evidence for flat Earth is something called specular reflection. As you see here, you have a complete specular reflection from this mountain on this water. This water must be flat to do that. Any concavity or convexity to the surface of the water would have a distorted image.
Oh no, I'm gonna do it again. Oh no. Oh no, it's gonna happen. Oh. Tennis balls are flat. Oh my god. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, at smaller scales on a sphere, you can get things that are flat. You can get portions that are flat, because relative to your level of interest in that, they are approximately flat. The difference, the amount to which it isn't, is not great enough to change the what you're seeing here, to change change the behavior. Yeah, like, okay.
It's impossible to have a specular reflection on a body of water that has any convexity.
Any convexity?
Here's an example of just a little bit of disturbance in the water, showing you that, of course, you do not get a specular.
So he should obviously know that this is untrue, because if he's saying, oh, you can't get any reflection if it's not like perfectly flat. Have you ever thrown a stone into a pond? Does the reflection go away entirely, or are there inaccuracies suddenly in the reflection? Like, if you look now at this image, the mountain, you get a reflection, but it's clearly like it's a lot fuzzier, right? It's not identical. It's not, you can't look at this and be like, man, I can't tell which one's the mountain, which one's the reflection. If you turn it upside down, you wouldn't be confused at all. So he should already know that what he's saying isn't accurate. You can have some amount of irregularity in the surface and still get a reflection here.
Reflection, unless the water's calm and flat. We see these all over the Earth, over huge stretches, miles and miles of water. Here's an example, or here's it being broken down for you. You have a diffuse reflection whenever the water is not calm and flat. In order to have the actual reflection bounce back up to the observer, it has to be flat. We have these over vast distances all over the Earth.
So, if this is what he's talking about, it's actually kind of funny. Because you can have has anyone ever looked into a mirror that was like tilted slightly differently? Like, you can even see in this example, this isn't a perpendicular right? This isn't hitting at 90 degrees, this reflection, right? So if it was tilted slightly or curved slightly, you can still get a reflection. It would just be distorted somewhat, which reflections are.
It has to be flat. We have these
This
over
is very
vast
silly, but
distances
also
all
this
over the Earth.
this only
Horizons been seen
proves
over 10
that
times.
bodies of water are. I guess you could. This almost is going towards the point of the Earth being flat. But now he's going back to no. This disproves globe. Okay, so it disproves globe. It doesn't prove flat.
Beyond the geometric limitations of the globe, requiring the radius value be over 250,000 miles, a little different than 4,000. Observation 600 miles away, the mountain should be obstructed by 40 miles. So the entire globe model depends on.
So we've gone over some of the stuff before. That longest photo, if you recall, was taken from extremely high altitude, and you couldn't see the base of the things they were looking at. It's actually perfectly accounted for, but they ignore all of that stuff.
Accuracy of the claimed radius value, everything, gravity, day and night.
Notice, the claimed radius value has been falsified. Okay, but that's not requisite for a globe Earth. But remember, he added that on as being requisite just so he could tear it down, even though, okay, what if it's a sphere with a different radius? That's still possible. Why does that could it only possibly be a globe with that specific radius value? Why? This is actually straw manning, right?
Everything. The radius value's been falsified. Welcome to flat Earth. So there you go. There's the positive.
And again, the conclusion is globe wrong. But globe wrong doesn't mean flat true.
This is not real. This is a cartoon, and it is okay. We all once thought it was real. So hope we can have a respectful conversation, leave out the fallacies, get to the evidence.
Leave out the fallacy. His entire opening was wall-to-wall
Thank you.
fallacies.
Alrighty, thank you so much there. What's it gets it for your introduction?
Oh, we moved people
statement
around.
there.
I was like, wait,
Just
I
going to
thought
remind everybody in the
Malachi
live
was
chat
up
that
there.
we are going to be doing a Q&A at the end of this conversation here, as we.
I was hoping it wouldn't lag out. I do want to skip the moderator bits just so we can get to the actual conversations. Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Malachi, for being here, and floor is all yours.
Okay,
What's going on?
Yeah, not a lot. Kind of have a big thunderstorm rolling through. So if I lose power and internet, then you win.
I don't like that, but all right.
Yeah, so lots of interesting claims.
I know
there.
he's joking, but still.
I guess the problem I'm really having with your slideshow is that it doesn't actually argue for a flat Earth.
Thank you.
What
Great,
you're doing
great
is
start.
and I see this a lot, so don't think this is unique. But like what you're doing is you're going through, and you're looking
You're
at
just like
things
all
that
the
are
others.
Like, huh, that's funny, and you are assuming that that's somehow evidence for your point of view. But that's the problem, is that it's not. So if you go through and you say, huh, that's an interesting little phenomenon that we're observing, and that really requires some more investigation, like that would be fine. But that's not what you're doing. You're going through and you're looking at phenomenon that is interesting. You brought up an army thing from magnetic waves traveling over flat Earth, and it's like they didn't say flat Earth. They meant like a large piece of flat ground. And it's like I guess the main problem I'm having is like I didn't actually hear an argument for a flat Earth. I heard
Perfect.
Huh, there are interesting things going on. We should probably investigate that more. And I agree. We should investigate these things more and really figure them out.
Yeah. So,
let's see.
those were
Let's see if he
specific
does the
pieces of
shifting burden
evidence for
improve
a
stuff.
flat Earth, right? So if I send out radio waves horizontally, and they go 2,700 miles, but the curvature of a globe should block them at 200 miles.
All right, hammer him. Go. Okay, cool. You have. Let's assume that you've disproved the globe Earth with that. Why does it have to be flat? Why couldn't it be something else?
Evidence that the surface that the radio waves propagated over is a plane, and that there's no physical obstruction.
Let's go bowl Earth model. It's a bowl. You can just shoot across. That's why it works.
So no, it's not. That is evidence that there is something interesting going on there that requires further investigation. You haven't actually shown any sort of model of a flat Earth that would answer that question.
This, in fact, is the actual version of what he pretended was an instance of begging the question. Remember, he was saying like, "Oh, the sun goes over the horizon. That's proof that the Earth is round." He phrased it differently than this. He's actually doing that, right? He's actually saying like, "Oh, this is a phenomenon that doesn't make sense in globe Earth, but so therefore it must be therefore the Earth must be flat, and not there just needs an explanation, or I misunderstand it, or whatever else. And it doesn't actually prove a flat Earth. It at most disproves a globe Earth, and it still doesn't do
Yeah,
that.
it's just a flat Earth answers that question.
So you said no begging the question, and you seem to be doing
Oh,
that.
perfect. Oh, Malachi. Oh, a
I'm
man
not
after my
begging
own
the
heart.
question.
Yeah,
No.
you are. You're saying this
Get him,
works
King.
if we have a flat Earth, and we have a flat Earth, so it works.
No.
That's begging the question. You need to actually show
No,
like
just no. We got Trump tactics here. You're in debate. Your opponent's saying a thing you don't like. No, wrong, false.
Model, along with a bunch of different pieces of evidence that show this flat Earth thing. I mean, looking into the flat Earth folks, I've realized that basically none of them have actually the same model. They all claim different things. Some people think it's we're on a disc that's traveling through space.
Oh, Malachi, what a genius!
Upwards at like.
So he did know that there are different models here, and so his opening gets that much smarter because he made arguments that attacked different versions of the model, but all in a way where like he's presenting it as as proof for the globe instead, and made no attacks on the actual model, so that now he has to present it as, listen, there's no consensus. You need to tell me what you mean and how your model works. He's not putting it in those terms, but like it does put a lot of pressure on Austin because he's pointing at the flat Earth model, but there's not one flat Earth model. You see what I mean, right? Like he's alluding to a consensus and agreement that solves these problems, but they haven't solved this problem. Not at all. The only thing they agree on is the Earth being flat, but that's a little weird that they have that agreement, but everything else is in disarray. It's almost like it's motivated reasoning that led them there. They want to believe it for some reason, and they will make up explanations for all the things that don't work with it, and when you have that process going on, no two people have the same conclusion. This is also why we see like a lot of other conspiracy theorists they'll all agree on like Bigfoot is real, but like where Bigfoot has gone or why we haven't seen him or what Bigfoot is, like all of those are different from person to person because they don't have actual answers. They just have a reason to want to believe the thing at the base of it.
The rate of the rate of gravity, like the acceleration of gravity. Some people think that it's like infinite going every. Well, I'm not saying you do. I'm saying that these are the sorts of arguments that I found.
Yeah, he's very clear that he's not assigning that to
Flat
Austin.
Earth world joke seems to have like the same model and the same explanations for things. They all just sort of look at these sorts of issues and say this is an interesting phenomenon, and then they use it to try to build their own worldview. But that's not really how that works. You need to have a consistent large body of evidence that goes directly towards this flat Earth thing and cannot be described on a spherical Earth model.
I would conclude that. By the way, I think Malachi did a phenomenal job. Has been doing a phenomenal job in this back and forth so far. The only like note is I would want to finish that portion with something to the effect of, because there is such disagreement in flat Earth communities about what the model is or looks like and its properties, I'd like you to lay out what it is you mean, because you also did not do that in your opening. Notice he was saying like, oh, flat is not a shape, but doesn't talk about what he means by what the flat Earth is, what observations we would expect from it, right? Like if we look at the flat Earth models that we Googled, they have some differences. Some of them have more or less ice around the edges or in different places. Some of them, like, where's the sun and how do you account for that? Some of this ice wall is floating on the water, like the last guy. Some of it goes to the base. That last guy thinks it's an infinite plane. As Malachi was saying, something gravity extends infinitely in all directions. Some people have a firmament. Some people don't. Like you see, this model is vastly different than what we had seen. Because this is okay, because that's a extrapolated. That's a projection, not an actual flat Earth thing. Like the sun and the moon, are they inside the bubble or are they outside the bubble? Things like this. But Austin hasn't said anything about that. He has given no impression of what his worldview is, in what the world looks like in his model, other than flat. But as he already said, flat's not a shape.
Yeah. You should apply the same standards to your
He
position.
did.
This is
He
what
does.
always happens.
Why are you
There's a
deflecting?
blatant
Why are you
double
deflecting?
standard here. But for one, we need to define a few things. Like when you say a flat Earth model, there is no such thing as an Earth model. There's no such thing as a globe model, right? We model
What?
different phenomena. So we have a geoid model. That's for sea level on a presupposed globe.
What?
We have a dynamo
A
model.
globe
The
is a
geodynamo
model. What?
explains the core, right? We have the geomagnetic model, which explains the magnetic field on the globe. So we model out different phenomena. So I
Yeah,
can
like
show
the
you a
shape of
frisbee,
the
which
Earth?
you brought up east to west circumnavigation and said that that proved the surface of the Earth was curved, and if it weren't, then they would fall off. Of course, I could give you a frisbee, put a magnet in the middle, use a compass, go around it, going east to west. You're going to come back in a circle to where you
This
started.
is the problem
around-
I laid out with that example. This is also why I would have wanted to press him of what the world looks like on it, because he's deflecting and moving away. He's like obviously trying to avoid talking about what the world looks like to him. All he's saying is flat. But what does that mean? And he's asking Malachi what he means by that. Why? It's your position.
the center. That's a circumnavigation model for a flat Earth. So
Are you
it's just
talking
a
about-
talking point.
I'm sorry, are you talking about like Magellan and his famous voyage around the world?
Yeah, east to west circumnavigation
So
works perfectly fine on a flat Earth.
How is that? How does that work?
So if you use a compass and it points to north,
Yeah,
which
this
is
should
in
be
the
a thing.
center,
Yeah,
as you
this
begin
is
to go
this
east
was a
or
bad
west, you're
example,
gonna
and this is the
update-
problem with including it. Is it's something that Austin can latch onto as being like, see, it's all this bad, but like, unfortunately, it's one of those like a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and this weak link was extremely weak. I mean, it's pretty trivial. Even a flat earther can poke a hole in it.
update relative to north in a giant circle around the center.
Yeah, they used compass plus star charts, and they mapped all the land that they
This
were
is where it
passing
gets
as they
better
went.
because
I mean,
yes, they know they weren't. They plotted their route, and it wouldn't make any sense on a flat Earth. But, well, no, it should still make sense because, well, I guess maybe maybe not their direction, right? Their bearing would have had to change a lot from what they had, but like for the most part, you can. No, I guess that would be a problem. Yeah, I don't know. You kind of have to get into the weeds to understand that, I think.
this isn't
Okay.
some trickery of
Yeah, Austin's
using
just
a
not gonna care.
compass.
This is like flat Earth 101, bro. East to west circumnavigation.
Yeah, it's so
works
simple, dude.
exactly
It's so
the
easy
same.
to understand when you don't when you just ignore how the world is. Like this is one of those like I have a very poor understanding of it, therefore it's really simple. Right? Because one of the things what Malachi was just saying was like their navigation using star charts and compass and direction and whatever, like I think what he's saying is that it would necessitate a trajectory that would lead them off the edge of the earth. But what Austin is basically saying is like, well, they can just like, just keep turning if they're going east to west, just keep turning right, bro. Like you'll make it around. I'm not sure. Maybe Malachi might have been saying like they weren't using a compass to navigate. He might not have understood Austin's explanation for how you can, with the frisbee and the magnet and the compass or whatever. What he was saying is basically what I'm saying, right? If you treat it like a frisbee, you can go all the way. You can get something to go all the way around traveling east, and it doesn't require you like never fall off the edge. You can make that circuit. It's just not a circuit in 3 dimensions. It's a circuit in 2 dimensions.
On a flat Earth, the only one that would debunk flat Earth would be north to south circumnavigation around the entire ball. 'Cause if you
Which
can
I
do
wouldn't be
both east
surprised
and
if
west
it's
and north to
happened,
south,
but it
that
would be
will
very
prove
difficult
it's a-
because land masses. There's a giant land mass in Antarctica and a giant ice mass in the Arctic. Makes it hard to actually do that, but I wonder if anyone's done it.
ball. And of course, north to south circumnavigation has never been done in the history of man.
All right, a flat earther said it, so now I don't believe it. Let's see. That's north to south circumnavigation. Is it? Okay. Oh wait. Oh, look at that. It has. I'm glad I checked. As soon as a flat earther says it, you could be like, "That's probably not true." And look at there. No, it has. The Transglobe Expedition, 1979 to 1982, was the first expedition to make a longitudinal north to south circumnavigation of the Earth using only surface transport. British adventurer Sir Randolph Fiennes led the team. Okay, planning. I want to see what is there like a route that they did? I just want to know what their route was. They began in Greenwich, traveled south, arriving at the South Pole, and then they traveled north and then south to Greenwich. Okay, so they did circumnavigate through both poles and beginning and ending in Greenwich. So yeah, no, it has been done. It's been done. So flat Earth is disproven now, right? Now I know. I'm so glad I looked that up now, because now every time we talk about flat Earth, if we ever do again, we can know. Oh, here's the disproof. It happened.
And it's illegal to even try to do that.
It's not.
Which is pretty convenient.
It happened.
It also
so
sounds
it's not
useless. I mean, like, I'm in North America. All of our satellites are in the southern sky, right? Why would you send a satellite to go north to south? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, why would we send a satellite to look at the poles of the Earth?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm curious.
It's one of those, like, I have the convenience of being able to look this up on the fly. I don't know that you could really do that in debate. Maybe you could, but yeah, not a great answer from Malachi. It's just one of those, like, now having known this, it's hard to interact as though we don't. But, like, yeah, Austin's just wrong.
Other stuff, right? Like, I mean, what are your thoughts on NASA?
And I'm sure if we presented it to him, he'd have to say, like, oh, it wasn't real, or it's like, oh, was that funded by NASA? I bet they're trying to prove it, or whatever, right? Like, the point to the conspiracism and the cabal, because obviously they're not going to actually hold. The only thing, like, notice the thing he said that would disprove it is the thing he thinks hasn't been tried even. It's the appearance of falsifiability, even though he's assuming it's unfalsifiable. If I were to present him with this, there's no chance he's like, oh shit, I guess it's a globe then. No chance. He's a flat earther. They don't operate that way.
I don't blindly believe government agencies that were founded by Nazis.
Right.
Well, okay, yeah, the conspiracy founded by Nazis. Okay, buddy.
So this is fascinating for me too, because it's like we're introducing conspiratorial thinking. Right now we're looking at, like, oh, so this guy, you think
I like how Austin kind of like, huh? Like, what are you talking about, bro? Because he believes it, but no, it's, dude, you're a conspiracy theorist.
It was smuggled out of Germany. Forgot his name. Von Braun.
There's a lot of them, but Von Braun was put in charge of space exploration.
Yeah. You probably also think that it was very interesting what they put on the gravestone of Von Braun. Right, that's that passage from the Bible. I mean, like, this is all like
hilarious.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, now I gotta know. All right, let's see. I just want to see what's written there. Psalms 19:1. Why is it so hard to track this down? The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. Oh God, he probably thinks that's oh God, yeah, he probably thinks it's really interesting.
It's not that interesting when you read the passage of the Bible and you realize that we're using technology to basically go to the heavens. But like, this is
if you can read Hebrew, then it's interesting.
Oh,
if you change what the words mean, I guess it's not interesting.
Oh my God, I don't know if that's JQ shit or if that's like, oh, in the Hebrew it means something different, and like there's a conspiracy. Yeah, fucking hell, Jesus.
German, like, this is German scientists.
Also, why would it be in Hebrew? Psalms is a passage in the New Testament. Isn't Psalms from the New Testament? Or am I? Oh, it's the Old Testament. Okay, my mistake. Okay, well, I guess then the Hebrew would make sense. Yeah, I'm guessing this is more conspiracy shit. I don't want to look it up too much.
Either, but. So I think this is interesting because it just shows, like, this is just highly conspiratorial thinking where you don't trust. I mean, what do you think, the Illuminati are a big thing? Like, do you think?
Great, yeah. Like, who's the fucking cabal that is trying to convince people that the Earth is round, and for what reason? Is a great question to ask these people because it's
It's
obvious
called-
nonsense. Their
I
answers.
covered this in my presentation. This is called
No,
poisoning the well, right?
It isn't.
I'm
No, it's
asking
not
you
poisoning the
questions.
well. What? He's
I'm
asking you.
questions. If
You
don't wanna
believe
answer them
this?
because it makes you
I
look
am.
kind of crazy. That's fine. Just
Nah.
tell me you don't want to answer them.
Don't project so much, man. It's
No,
weird.
yeah,
So,
projecting. You're definitely not
I'm launching,
being
but
Weasley
I'm
right
trying to
now.
investigate your worldview because I'm trying to see how someone could get from like this really like simple and incredibly well-known fact about the Earth and start to degrade their own confidence in it and start to present these completely different models.
I would recommend to Malachi searching for
I know way more.
Photos,
I think we
photos,
both
like,
know.
the problem with
I
the
know.
NASA photos.
Yeah, but you got to stop scattergunning.
What?
So, like,
More
Sorry.
accusations throwing in there.
It's all good. But so, for one, you asked me what do I think about NASA, and I said I don't blindly believe government agencies.
Well, which I love how he's like, oh, you like. He has issues with ad hominems in his opening, but then he's like, I don't blind. Oh, and poisoning the well. I don't blindly believe government agencies founded by Nazis. First of all, what he means by founded by Nazis is not. I'm not going to get into it. That is conspiracism. But he's accusing by implication Malachi of blindly believing government agencies. But then he wants to cry about like, oh, you're poisoning the well because of conspiracism. Like, grow up here, dude. I don't know what to tell
Then
you.
proceeded to poison the well, as if anyone that doesn't blindly believe what NASA says is just a crazy conspiracy theorist that probably believes in.
Yeah,
the
see, exactly.
You know,
Yo, it's you're poisoning the well by calling me a conspiracist, but you blindly believe a government agency founded by Nazis. But that's not poisoning the well, dude. Nah.
bunch of crazy things. That's a textbook poisoning the well. But that's why I'm confused. Do you blindly believe federal government agencies?
Oh, boom, there it is. I'm cool doing it to you, but you know when you accurately describe my approach to the world, well, that's poisoning the well.
Do you not think that federal government agencies lie to us?
For the most part, no. I think that if you think that government agencies are lying to
Depends
you,
on what you mean by government agencies, and this is where it gets like that question is just one of those, like, it's so broad that it requires dishonesty it basically, it's so broad that it becomes dishonest, because it depends on what you mean by a government agency. The NSA and CIA and FBI, I'm sure, lie to us all the time just for the purpose of keeping government secrets. Right? Like, it's not even necessarily nefarious, but like, confidential information is confidential for a reason, or I guess classified information is classified for a reason. And maybe there should be more transparency. That's not really the point. The point is that, like, yes, that necessitates some amount of lying in order to cover that up. However, that is not the same thing as like NASA, which doesn't really have that reason to, like, there's a difference between like lying for the purpose of like national security and a like deep state cabal to deceive the entire world into believing in the globe Earth for reasons unknown. Like, there's a qualitative difference between these things, but by wrapping them up together, you sound insane or it's insane and credulous if you say no, government agencies don't lie to us that much, and you sound like you're in agreement with him if you say, well, yeah, they lie to us. It's a trap.
I think you don't understand.
This is a Jesse Lee Peterson style question.
What,
there is no good answer.
You don't understand the scientific method.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I know the scientific method very well.
Yeah, I
and
bet,
I
buddy.
would happily show that you don't know what it is,
Right.
but we got to stick on subjects here.
So like,
You got to stick on
government
subjects. You're the one
lies.
changing the subject.
Sometimes,
Government
yeah,
lies.
and I think that there's some useful reasons for the government to lie to its
He's so
population.
smug, too. It's driving me
I
insane.
think that that's
Oh,
sometimes
what,
fine.
like starting a war, like the Vietnam War, where they lied to the American public, blew up their own ship.
Yeah,
and
see,
said
there it is.
Vietnam attack
Right,
us.
like they lied to the American public for the purposes of starting a war. Therefore, NASA is all lies. Right? Do you see the difference in like, at that point, you literally couldn't trust anything a government ever says, and that includes to the level of like a president comes out and is like, COVID is a thing that happened. Like, you could really distrust literally everything. The government says, like, I don't know, Enron was doing shady business dealings. It's just a political cover-up because the government lies to you and whatever. Like, or things that are demonstrably true. If the government confirms them, you're just like, well, no, it must be lies.
Justify us going to war and murdering
Like,
children.
you
Is
could,
that a good one?
you have no
When
basis of
they
reality
literally admitted
anymore.
to brainwashing the public with the unsuspecting college students being part of MK Ultra, or whenever they said they took over the government. Or the
Don't
government
change
took
the
over
subject, bro. Let me
mainstream
talk about
media
Vietnam and MK Ultra.
in Operation Mockingbird to brainwash
And
the
this is like
public.
the classic
Which one of those
conspiracist
worked good
line of
for the
like,
public?
there have been real
I don't think
conspiracies,
those were
therefore
very
mine is
good for the
correct.
public. No, I didn't say that they were, and I said that sometimes it's fine, right? A lot of the times, I think the government does a fairly good job at doling out useful information. I mean, like a lot of the COVID stuff that was pretty useful. You could go to the
It was absolutely terrible, and grievous.
Yeah, oh, that's a terrible idea, by the way, Malachi. Flat earthers are almost all fucking are QAnoners and COVID conspiracists and all this other stuff. Like, you can't do that because he's definitely drunk the Kool-Aid on that shit too.
to freedom. So
Yeah, look at like he
wanna
thinks
know,
like some flat earthers are like COVID was an invented disease that also wasn't real in order for the government to like keep us at home for the great what was it, the great reset, which didn't happen, and also for some reason the virus like while the virus isn't real, it's also it's they also invented a vaccine even though like there wouldn't be a reason to do that. Yeah, like it's just they don't, what they believe on this is nonsense. You can't point at that as like what they said was reasonable.
though, is like, you understand my position is not that everything the government says is a lie.
No, it's just the things you, for your own convenience, disagree with.
Obviously, that's not my position.
Right.
No,
Right,
I mean,
so
you
you're
but you
choosing
are but your position is, I think it's reasonable to reject anything I want from the government because they lie sometimes, and your basis for what you will believe and not believe has nothing to do with what's actually true. It's just of like, well, if the government confirms it, that doesn't mean anything.
Very specific portion of
And
the
at that point,
government
you might
that
as well be
seems to
saying
just
everything
do a
is
lot
lies.
of really good and useful work, and you're somehow painting them as being like bad and lying and stuff like that because it doesn't match your model, because their science, their evidence doesn't match what you have already convinced yourself
You
of.
won't provide any science or evidence in this entire debate. You'll
He
just
already
keep
has.
saying the words.
No, I mean he already
I just
has.
don't trust
But you
government
ignored his
agencies
opening, so
blindly, which means that appealing to NASA is not sufficient evidence. And the reason I don't believe in NASA is I've
Because
actually
it
caught
disagrees with
them
you.
lying. So whenever astronauts
I bet. Yeah, want to
disappear
show
from
what that
frame
is?
on the ISS,
Who
and they're
wants to bet that his instance of catching NASA lying was a thing where they say the Earth is round, and he's like, haha, no, it's not. Like, or like, here's a picture of the Earth from space, and he's like, no, clearly these clouds are added in after the fact, even though like that's not anything.
hands go through microphones, I don't believe it's impossible that they're showing me fake images. I've seen dozens of hours of fake footage from the ISS.
Yeah, okay.
I don't believe in NASA.
You see, but like, by what mechanism are you determining that it's fake? Is it because it's your belief? Yeah, probably, right? But now he's using his disbelief as evidence that they're lying. Notice, right? This is hours of fake data, therefore they're lying to us. But why do I think it's fake data? Because I already disagreed with it. I didn't prove it was fake. I just already believed it was.
Who use clone tools on their cloud images. So I don't need to believe in that. We should be able to easily verify it on the Earth. Why would I believe in a government agency I've caught lying multiple
Well, you haven't.
times? The truth is, you've probably never looked at the footage that they've messed up on using VR and harnesses, and you can see it. So why would I believe that? I don't.
Using VR harnesses. Okay,
Like, it's
sure,
weird
buddy.
to believe in the government.
This is a thing they'll do all the time. So I'm gonna like catch all this. I don't know the specific instance that he's talking about because he's not even really talking about it. But there are a lot of ways that flat earthers have attempted to discredit NASA images that are all nonsense. One of the like, I even mentioned the clouds thing, and then he mentioned the clouds things. As it turns out, when you take a picture of the Earth from space, it's not like the camera on your phone where you just snap a picture and it's good. There's a lot that goes into taking a picture in that way, and one of the things that happens with it is that like it's kind of a time lapse. It's like you have long-term exposure, and so like you have to do certain things like fill in clouds after the fact to make a more realistic picture. But it's not faking the picture. It's just the difficulties of taking a picture of that kind. Similarly, they'll point at things like, oh, look, if you look at this photo and this picture in Photoshop, you'll see like a square around the Earth. Like, why is that there? Clearly, it was messed with or photoshopped. But I've seen someone deal with this, where you can just take a picture of a thing you know is round, right? Like a ball that you have. Then like compress. It's like JPEG compression or something. I forget what the process is. Like you compress it and then reopen it, and then you reopen it in Photoshop, and then like boom, there's a square around it. It's just JPEG compression. This happens all the time. There's a lot of stuff like this that like I said, I'm just gonna put a catch-all here that flat earthers either don't know about or pretend not to know about or just completely ignore, that are explanations for these quote unquote weird things, and they'll instead say, "Oh, I caught them lying," which is not at all what happened.
Admits their objective is to control what the public think for national security purposes.
But what's the national security purpose of convincing people the Earth is round?
All right.
That was the fastest flat smack ever, bro.
There, it looks like something happened there.
Well, it's possible that Malachi's power went out, as he
some,
mentioned.
Thunderstorms, he was saying, were happening where he's at. So we'll wait for Malachi to come back. This happened last night.
Hopefully he's back soon. Yeah, I'm gonna see if he.
Kyle
I mean, obviously this didn't end, so he comes back.
He was back within like 15 seconds or 30 seconds. So we'll just
okay.
Everything's set up.
I'm gonna ignore what
that.
Austin was saying just to the audience. It sucks that he was like that the moderator let him just talk uncontested like that, but it's also like from a position of content creation. It's like, well, we don't want dead air, and what else are we gonna do? And we don't know if Malachi's coming back or whatever. But you probably shouldn't let the conspiracists just talk to the audience unopposed.
Cool. So storms come through and my power gets knocked out.
Well, that's an interesting topic. I guess we could launch into to kind of steer this back. For both of you, let's talk about the weather on our views there. So, how is the weather?
Yeah, this is another thing. So, this is, I think it was T-Jump was in the last debate who was saying novel testable predictions are the cornerstone of workable models in science. And this is why the globe model is a workable model and the flat Earth model is not. It is kind of unreasonable to call flat Earth a model because it doesn't work in that way. But weather patterns is one of those things. Meteorologists work in a globe Earth model, obviously, and they can make novel, testable predictions about weather events. There are degrees of inaccuracy because it's not exact, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But like meteorology tends to be pretty accurate, all things considered. You can make predictions, and they're based in part on what we know about the Earth, including its shape and how weather systems move and magnetic fields, so on and so forth. That globe Earth meteorologists could not flat Earth meteorologists could not possibly do. So let's see what happens here.
How does that work?
But it takes a little bit of understanding. This is the kind of thing where it's complex enough where a flat earther can appeal to the ignorance of the audience and just be like, you could do the same thing in a flat Earth, and they don't know enough. Like, I don't know enough to disprove it necessarily, but other than like the broad thing I said, but he can just be like, oh no, that's explainable, and like, you know, who knows enough in the audience about meteorology to be like, no, that's not true.
Spherical Earth. You can go and look in a high school textbook and find out how the weather works. I'll just agree with that. But I am interested, and this is sort of the claims that I wanted to go through. Was like, you need to have this massive body of evidence, and not just like picking one or two small issues and saying this is like, you know, it doesn't.
I wish Malachi would like springboarding off of that. I wish he would go back to, and maybe he will. Like, you have not made clear what you mean by flat Earth, let alone attempted to prove it. You have at most found issues with the globe Earth model, but you have not demonstrated that it is therefore flat. What if it's not, you know, again, what if it's a cylinder? What if it's a cube? What if it's a bowl? You know, like, you know, why should, like, you haven't demonstrated a flat Earth, or what even you mean by that, because there isn't one consensus in flat Earth communities. God, the smug look on his face is it's bothering me so much.
No, it doesn't, right? So if you find something that says, this is intriguing, and I need to go and research it more, that doesn't destroy an entire, like, hundreds of years of
thousands of years
model that's been working really well.
It doesn't work.
Just
I mean,
no.
dude,
His
I was in
answer,
the
his
military.
counter argument was literally just no. In case anyone missed it, no. His answer was just no.
They ask people who shoot long distance, right?
I do. I know
Ask people
many
who
of them. They
shoot
know
more
the
than
Earth's
2 miles. They have to operate under the Coriolis effect
no.
all the damn time, right?
No,
Like,
they don't.
No. Oh, just no.
Talk to the guy who
Nope.
broke the
No,
world
not
record.
true. Okay. Just
Talk
nope.
to the
All
guy
right.
directly who broke the world record. So
on
that's just a
distance
lie.
shooting?
That's just yes.
He's probably
Okay.
not being honest here.
What is
I've also heard testimonies from. I watched some video of like a long distance sniper talking about like movies and stuff. And one of the things he was mentioning is like, yeah, at really long distances, you get to the point where you're starting to factor in the Coriolis effect and the shape and the curvature of the Earth. It's definitely a thing that long distance shooters have to take into account.
they say about the
He don't
Coriolis
never
effect?
accounts for Coriolis ever.
No, it's because the little device that they use to plug the numbers in does it for them. When you know the distance, when you know the direction you're shooting, when you know the atmosphere, when you know the barometric pressure, the device will adjust for you. You just click your little dials, and it'll dial it in for you.
He said that they never account for Coriolis.
That's because the
He said
device.
Now we get like this appeal to authority and just stating, nope, you're wrong. This guy said so. Literally just, nope, he says he never do it. Nope, 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 nope. The best argumentative approach. Nope.
Does it for you.
Oh, so do they have to account for the wind, or does the device do it for them?
No, that is something you have to account for. But usually, you guys usually have like either a really good weather report, or you look at signs in the surrounding environment, like dust plumes and trees moving, stuff like that.
Okay. No one accounts for Coriolis.
Nope, just says
you
nope.
say that it's
Just
built
says
into
nope.
the machine. That's a cool story. And even if there is Coriolis, it doesn't even prove that the Earth is moving. Doesn't even prove that the Earth is moving. So in reality, what
By
they
the way,
do,
the Earth
when they
doesn't have to
shoot
be
a long
moving for it
distance,
to-
if they did
for it to
account
be
for
a globe.
Coriolis, it would basically not change anything. Wind is way more of a factor, so you have to account for that. If you miss your target to the right, it's because of wind. Nothing to do with Coriolis. Now you could say long distance artillery shells or something, but same thing. They miss their targets all the time and then have to correct, and the primary factor is wind. And even if Coriolis was real, it doesn't prove the Earth is spinning, because if the entire sky is moving around the Earth, it would translate a force to the Earth. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But if the entire sky was rotating around the Earth, remember the flat Earth model, like they don't think that if you look at this one, the dome doesn't go underneath the Earth, right? It's not an atmosphere rotating around both sides of this plane. It would have to be rotating like this, which would be a very different. We would notice very different effects than the way the atmosphere currently moves.
If you've looked into any of this yet.
Right. And now he's talking down to Malachi. Have you looked into anything? Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
I mean, like
the
so
smugness,
I asked you about,
people like this, it drives me.
NASA, right? This institution
I can't
that's been doing some really cool stuff, right? We're able to talk right now because of satellites that are in space. Space program is
novel, testable predictions that lead to effective solutions. Yeah.
What China has one, the UN has one. I think South Korea has one.
Yeah, I bet he thinks all of that is like lies, and there's something else going on.
Consistent lie all the time.
Yeah. Are they all
there it
signed
is.
to the Antarctic Treaty?
Yeah, it's all conspiracism. But remember, he's like, no, you said it's conspiracism. That's poisoning the well. You literally alleging a conspiracy right now. Right now, you're doing it.
What does that matter?
So they clearly can cooperate together to conceal something from the public. They all agree to the Antarctic Treaty. So
they have made an agreement. Therefore, they're capable of the biggest cover-up that has ever been for purposes unknown. Like, for real. Again, ask yourself, why? Why would they do this? What would even the point be? All right, cool. Everyone believes the Earth is round. Now what? At most, you have made it more and more difficult to get people to raise a new generation who is able to create and maintain technology that is based on the Earth not being round, right? We have these millions and billions of people who all think that Austin's belief is insane. How would we ever maintain technology that operates on a flat Earth model which according to him everything does? How could we ever do that?
Yeah, so
and none of these people, once they get there, are like, holy shit, everything I was taught was a lie. I have to tell the world the Earth is flat. That never happens. Never, not once.
Treaties founded in 1959, coincidentally 1 year after NASA was founded, and directly after America went and explored Antarctica. Coincidentally, America went and they brought the Nazis over here in 45.
Oh my god.
1946, Operation High Jump, they wouldn't explore Antarctica. They did that for many years with Admiral Byrd, who said there's tons of land beyond the South Pole that no one knows about. In 1955,
We looked at this
Operation
up last
Deep
time. I don't remember what it said, but a flat earther saying it, it's probably not true.
Freeze, the
Like
government
the
went
conclusions
back
or
there,
whatever.
founded Little America Base. In 57, they agree with a bunch of countries to shut down travel to the north and to the south. And then in 1958, they founded NASA.
By the way, we looked this up last time. There are cruises you can take and go to the South Pole. It's not illegal. You can do it. You can do it right now.
1959, founded Antarctica.
Oh, and also the journey we looked up, the circumnavigation north to south that happened would have been impossible. It would have been illegal, but it happened. Now, of course, this guy probably thinks it didn't happen, right? You have to. It disagrees with his worldview, therefore it must be like part of the conspiracy or not real. But obviously, what he's saying is not true. Otherwise, these things couldn't be the case, and they are. You know.
Which says that there is no private and free exploration allowed past the 60 south latitude, which is a circle drawn around you.
Huh. You just need permission. You can just do that. No. It's not illegal to travel to Antarctica. It's just not. You can go do it. You can here's a travel listing. You can go with Poseidon Expeditions. You can literally just go there. And like, how would it be illegal, right? It's not under the jurisdiction of any particular government. It'd have to be like the world government. But of course, this guy thinks it's an international cabal for like of countries that all disagree and hate each other and and have disagreements or whatever. Like, but they all can coordinate for this one purpose for no reason.
Roughly 500 to 1,000 miles from the edge of Antarctica, depending on where you are.
You can go there.
And that's intact today. The longest-lasting peace treaty in modern history. That's Russia, China, America.
Oh, it's a peace treaty? Oh. It's probably an agreement not to send militaries there. God damn it. Oh my god, hold on. The Antarctic Treaty. The Antarctic Treaty was signed in Washington on December 1st, 1959 by the 12 countries whose scientists had been active in and around Antarctica during the International Geophysical Year of 1957-1958. It entered into force in 1961 and has since been acceded to by many other nations. Total number of parties to the treaty is now 56. Some important provisions about the treaty. Article 1. Antarctica shall be used for peaceful purposes only. Article 2. Freedom of scientific investigation in Antarctica and cooperation toward that end shall continue. Article 3. Scientific observations and results from Antarctica shall be exchanged and made freely available. It's literally an agreement not to send militaries there, with an article that stipulates that scientific investigation will continue. Not that it will stop. Not that civilians can't go there, but that they should remain allowed to. Holy shit. This is why you have to look up what conspiracists say. Like, it's all nonsense. He's alleging that it's illegal for anyone to go there because the governments are like in international agreement. Their agreement is to not militarize the South Pole, and that civilians, you can still go there because it is not military. It is not infested with military bases.
You name it. They all
Holy
say that
shit.
you and I
That one-
can privately
that
and
one got
freely
me.
explore one region that would prove the Earth's a sphere. So how can
No, you can. You can. Okay. Well, that's...
Yeah, I mean, he said
And of
about-
course, like, this is what I mean about, like, conspiracists preying on your lack of knowledge. He's going to state confidently something that is flatly false. He probably doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about either. He almost certainly heard this from some other dipshit flat earther and was like, this is true, why would they lie to me? Never looked it up on his own. We found within seconds that it's just the opposite of what he's talking about, but he's going to confidently say it's true to all the people watching and to his opponent, and if you don't specifically know what it is, you might not be able to check it on the fly or not be inclined to check it. Now you're unable to tell him he's wrong, and so he gets to be like, haha, I'm correct, idiot, even though he's literally just lying. It's just, you have to know so much about so much. This is, if I remember right, last time I talked about this, where you would have to know everything about everything in order to disprove a conspiracist. And I don't mean like everything about everything related to this. I mean things not related to this at all. Like a fucking peace treaty in Antarctica. You would have to know things that are unknowable and unknown in order to disprove them in their entirety, because what they do constantly is operate in the fringes of like, well, you don't know this and therefore can't prove me wrong, even though what I'm saying is flatly untrue, and sometimes demonstrably like this. That one was really upsetting to me. The dishonesty in that is so overwhelming that anyone who was listening to him before, like it, I know obviously the people watching, like, who would watch this debate don't have access to this, but like anyone who is aware of this should immediately just be like, all right, literally everything he says is untrue. Like, honestly, don't believe anything he says from here on, because he's willing to lie to you. He's willing to be like, yeah, this is an international treaty between a million, well, I guess 56 countries, to prohibit everyone from going there, even though it is explicitly not that.
In other words, they're like, coincidentally, one thing happened a year after another thing happened. It's like, yeah, that happens all the time, dude. Like,
things happen one after one another.
One
yeah,
thing
it's
does happen
correlation,
a year after
causation.
another thing happens. So I don't really understand why that's a point for you. And then
They went to
the other thing about the
Antarctica.
Antarctic Treaty was that you weren't allowed to put like major military installations there, which I think was a really good idea, because you don't want to have, you know, boots on the ice, people running around making a mess of it. I mean, it's like a pristine area that's incredibly sensitive to like ecological disasters.
And you can go there.
I don't really see
and you
how
can
this
go
is
there.
like a big whoa.
So it seems
to
like he
you.
knows a
It's
little
just
bit
like,
about this, but not enough to be
yeah,
like,
there's
oh no,
pristine
obviously
areas
what
of
he's
the
saying
earth
is
that
what
we
Alson's
should
saying is a
probably try to
lie.
protect from any major exploitation.
Like,
This is where I'd want to, like, if I was in a debate like this and I was able to and I knew about this kind of thing, I would want to literally just be like, hey, this is what this treaty is, and I'm very familiar with it. Why did you just lie to me about what it's about? Like, hold them to the fire. Why did you just lie to me?
like the Amazon rainforest.
What? Remember
Again,
how he doesn't
I
like
don't really
changing the
see how that
subject?
goes to your point about Antarctica. It's like, so my
Clearly
question
does.
was, my
Clearly
question
does.
was, so hold on. So
Clearly
hold on. My
does.
question
No, I'm
was
right.
originally, do you think that all of these institutions are lying? And you said yes, because, and you didn't say anything about the lies. You said yes, because they are able to hold a treaty that's protecting very delicate places of the earth. I don't really understand how that
No,
works for
I
you.
didn't say yes because.
No, he
Okay,
just
so
said
Every time I
yes
have a
and then
debate, it's
alluded
always
to it because.
tactical misrepresentation. But
Well, because
well,
you actively go out of your way not to represent yourself. Like, you. Oh my god. I don't know. This guy's getting to the point now where I'm like, he's. Can we just be? Can we just agree that he's being willfully dishonest at this point? Like, this is a lying piece of shit. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, he's even being like, no, I didn't say that was an explanation. I just brought it up, seemingly for no reason.
what I
Like,
said
that's
was
fine. I might have gotten it wrong.
in rebuttal to your question, which clearly implied that it's somehow impossible for all these countries to cooperate together. I said they're already cooperating together in something called the Antarctic Treaty, which is very
but those are
specific to
very
this
different
discussion.
things. It's
The
not
military
because
went and explored Antarctica for a decade and came back and said no one's allowed to go there.
that's not what they said.
Oh, but it's for
Now
the,
he's
it's for
remember
the
he's lying.
environment, but we can burn down millions.
No, you're
and
allowed to go
millions of
there.
Square feet
Militaries
of the
are not allowed to go
Amazon
there.
Rainforest daily. But we don't. We care.
Actually, let's look into it a little bit more. Oh, here is the link to the Wikipedia. Cool. That's what I want. I want to know what the actual agreements were. Okay. What are the actual agreements, though? type. What the hell? Okay, so it's an agreement that it doesn't belong to anybody. Okay, well, never mind. I'm not finding
Care
it
about the
quickly enough.
ice that has nothing there. No one can even just travel there. We can burn down
Well,
the
you can.
Amazon rainforest. That's why it's
What?
relevant. So do you not think it's
I mean,
weird that we can't freely
First of all, we're
explore
not
the
burning
Earth?
down the Amazon rainforest.
No, I
You have the
don't.
right to
There's
do
a
that?
lot of places you can't freely explore, right?
Name one.
By the way,
I
you
own a
can
tract of
you
land
you're
in
allowed to go to
California.
Antarctica.
You cannot freely explore it because I own it.
Who owns Antarctica?
How is that weird? How is that?
Who owns Antarctica?
The nations of the world jointly.
Who owns Antarctica? It does.
Yeah.
This isn't a system of ownership that I'm talking about. I was giving you an example
what
of some
you
place
just
you can't
said.
explore.
It was an
I was
example.
just-
I know your brain is as smooth as the globe I have here, but no, it was an example. He wasn't saying it's because of ownership. In case anyone forgot, I have this cool globe got years ago. It's neat, right?
Example of some place you can't freely explore, right? You cannot come to my land and freely explore because I
Yeah,
own it.
it's your
You want that-
land. You own it. So who owns Antarctica?
Yeah, but there are
It's
other reasons you
3,500
can't
miles in
explore
diameter.
areas.
That's like the
Fucking
size of the
dipshit.
United States. So why is it?
And
we
also you
can't
can go there.
explore
You
there?
can.
Why does that help your point?
Okay.
I'm so
Now we're
confused.
getting like
I already told you this. You should listen. So if we go
No, because
north
you
to
think,
south,
hold on, yeah. So you think
Which has
that
happened.
we can't explore this because there is some massive conspiracy by multiple government agencies and multiple governments to stop people from going and exploring the truth about the shape of the Earth.
Well, just
what's a fact?
just to cut back in here, you just asked him a question about Antarctica, so we're gonna let Austin get into that and keep the conversation moving.
Okay.
What is a fact is that the Antarctic Treaty doesn't allow us to explore there.
incorrect.
We can disagree on why they're doing that and is it to hide the shape of the Earth or whatever, but what is just a fact is that what would prove the globe is to circumnavigate north to south,
Which has
go
been
over
done.
Antarctica and pop back up on the other side of a ball.
And by the way, we
illegal to
found
do-
out that that's happened with a quick Google search, and that happened after this treaty. So clearly, like, no, it's not illegal to do this. People did it. We found that with a quick Google search. This guy, I'm willing to bet, knows about this expedition and probably has some made-up reason as to why it's nonsense. But I do not trust at this point that he is just ignorant about this stuff. And instead, it seems he's being willfully dishonest. So now I'm wondering, like, hey, why are you hiding the fact that that expedition occurred?
do is freely and privately explore Antarctica and try to go over the continent and pop back up on the other side of the ball, and no one's ever done it. So yes, it's sketchy that we're not allowed to freely and privately explore. It's not what I think a conspiracy is going on, or no.
Well,
it's
you
just
do.
Admittedly,
You've
the
said
case.
it.
You can't go there.
You can.
Right,
Really?
and I have no problem with that, nor do I think it's a point towards flat earthers. I don't think that it's a major issue. Yeah, you can't go to some places on the earth because they are very delicate. Yes, Amazon rainforest burning, that's bad. I would like to stop that. Right, I would vote for someone who wants to stop that. Also,
Austin, by the
protecting
way,
very
almost
delicate
certainly a
places
Trump
of our Earth,
supporter
such as
and therefore
Antarctica.
does not give a shit about
Why is it delicate?
capitalism.
Just freely go there.
Why is it delicate?
Why is it?
Now we're like
it's
way
a-
off
it's a
topic.
large,
Austin
like,
successfully derailed the
ice
conversation.
expanse with land underneath. It's where we get
Yep.
core samples. It's a place you don't really want to mess up. We learn a lot by going down there and drilling down and discovering ice. You don't want to have military presence down there. You want to have scientists only. You don't want to have tourists. Like I'm totally on board with that.
By the way, you can go there as a tourist.
Okay.
You don't want to have
You-
people dropping off like red Solo cups of beer in this ice that people need
my
to study.
3,500 miles. They admit they don't even go to the middle of it because it's too
So
dangerous. So this is
They
the
have,
facts.
though.
This doesn't prove the Earth is flat. What it proves is that you can't freely and privately explore the Earth, the very region that would help.
You
prove
can't.
the
I mean,
Earth's
you
a
can't
globe.
just like
All
go
the
there on a
countries
whim.
say
It's
in
not like just like wandering like in the area around the town where you live or something like that. Like no, you do need to like permissions, kind of like you need a visa to go to another country. Like we looked up, but it's not illegal to go there. You just need permissions
agreement.
because they don't
It
want it to
objectively
be
would if you
like,
understood basic things
overrun by
like
tourists or whatever.
circumnavigation.
But you
So
can
you're
go.
not allowed to go there freely and privately.
You
only
can
on
go
an
there.
approved guided tour to one little.
Okay, yeah, okay. So now he's admitting you can go there, just not freely and privately. You can go on a guided tour. Yes, so you can go there. but he's like, oh well, that is the same thing is not being allowed. Remember, he was characterizing it as you were not allowed to go there at all because of this treaty. Oh, clearly the treaty doesn't say that. Like, he's obviously lying.
2 little sections. So it's highly suspect that our military brought the Nazis over here who were obsessed with Antarctica.
Notice he
then
keeps
went and
bringing- brought
explored
the Nazis
Antarctica
over
the
here,
very
yeah.
next year. Then for a decade explored it, came back and said, you guys are not allowed
By
to
the way,
go
like, even if
there."
all of this conspiracism is true, which it's not, that doesn't explain why thousands of years ago people understood that the Earth was round. Do you think, like, the ancient Greeks were like, well, we got to bring these Nazis over who won't exist for 2,000 years, so that, and then they'll tell us to go to Antarctica, which we don't know exists and didn't go to, and that's why we think the things that we also have evidence and experiments to show the veracity of.
That means they're probably hiding something in Antarctica.
Right.
Is
so
that
that's
possible?
Also begging the question is that you think that the only way that this entire thing that seems really reasonable to anyone looking at it, the only way this makes sense to you is if you think there's something being hidden down there, which is the proof of a globe or a flat Earth, right? This is
I said
it's highly
probably.
conspiratorial thinking, and I'm so curious, right? Like you
I'm glad he
distrust
pointed
NASA.
out the begging the question part, because now Austin can't really, like, it's harder for him to object because he took issue with begging the question. So now you've laid out this is what it is and why it is. Obviously he's gonna be like, no, it's not. You're being ridiculous. You know, you're like you're fucking poisoning the well or whatever other bullshit he's gonna say. Like, it's really good for anyone listening to be like, oh yeah, why is he doing this stuff? You know?
Because of well, you made a genetic fallacy there, right? Just because it was started by someone that may or may not have had nefarious reasonings. I don't really land on a side there, but that doesn't mean that what it's doing today is bad or it's tainted in any way. All right, so like,
Straw man.
right, people go.
Oh, there it
space,
is. Yeah,
they
like,
take a lot of pictures.
okay.
We go to the moon. Do you think that people have been to the moon?
No, of course not.
Before, wait, straw man fallacy. I did not
Yeah,
say
there
I
it
don't
is.
believe in NASA because they were founded by Nazis. I
No,
said
you
I
just
don't
you
blindly
just
trust
thought it
federal
very
government agencies
loudly.
founded
Like,
by Nazis.
no, like, this is the Jordan Peterson does this shit all the time. It's like you're presenting a series of statements that lead to an obvious conclusion, but because you never said the word therefore, you're like, I didn't say that. But like anyone with 2 brain cells, which I guess is overshooting how many Austin has, like, can clearly understand what you're getting at.
That I've seen and caught faking footage numerous times. You tactically omitted the entire argument.
Well, you didn't actually present an argument. You claimed a thing that I don't believe.
Faking footage.
How do you know the footage was faked? I don't understand.
Now we're getting
What
distracted
footage
into
you
something
talking
else,
about,
right? He
and how do you
keeps
know it was fake?
changing
There's all
subject,
kinds of
changing
footage.
ground.
Maybe we should show the audience some of the footage. But, for example, they will disappear. An astronaut will just disappear. So he'll start going around a corner and he'll fade out of the screen before he gets around the corner. Well, that's what would happen if you layer an astronaut on a background and try to fade him out. But a camera can't just videotape someone and then they disappear and fade out of picture.
I'd have to say, this
Someone's
is one of
hand
those,
can't
you
go
need to
through
have a lot of
microphones.
knowledge
Someone's hand can't
to know
go
what he's
through a
talking about.
lemon. In 0G, someone's shirt doesn't get pulled like that. Okay, that's what harnesses do, though. So we've caught them glitching out and their hands going through objects. We've caught astronauts grabbing objects that aren't there. You're laughing,
I'm sure,
and you've
yeah.
I am
never
laughing because
researched.
this is ridiculous, right? So you're saying that
Blindly believe all this. It's weird.
There's a secretive lying government agency that is making up a massive you haven't really described the reasons either. So
Thank you,
there's
finally
hundreds of
nailing
thousands
that.
of people that are hiding this fact that we've gone
For no
into
reason.
space to the moon,
For
the
no
Earth is a
discernible
sphere,
reason, anyway.
and yet even though they spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year on this project, somehow they're still really, really bad at
And there'd have to be
Photoshop.
literal millions
It's
of
not as
people in
simple
on
as
this.
Photoshop. You're so ignorant, bro. So
Oh,
if you
yeah,
do
he's ignorant.
virtual
All right.
reality.
Oh my
you
God.
Remember how he didn't like ad hominems? Remember how he was opposed to that?
have to, if you
I remember.
If you do lifetime virtual reality, you have to overlay objects on a live feed. It can be done, but it's not easy because if you're using chroma keys, blue and green screens, and virtual reality, or augmented reality,
now we're getting into, like, also the limits of military and governmental technology are what we have access to, and so because it's hard for us to do it, it would be impossible for them to do it. You're alleging that they have, like, the ability to fake a conspiracy of this level that would require Well, it would require a lot of absurd technology that we don't have access to because it relies on fundamental assumptions that are different. But they're like, well, you can do it with this with this commercial software, and so it would be all like this, and the government definitely doesn't have anything other than that.
It's very difficult to get all the layers properly functioning in live time. So
Yeah,
that's right. They didn't master it. That's right.
I've done photography and editing. I'm pretty understanding of what's going on here. So like again,
why would you say such an ignorant thing? Then?
Well, maybe because he knows more than you about this,
so
and you're the one
you don't
who's
have
ignorant.
To do it live.
Fucking moron.
And this is the weird part. Is like you're saying that they're doing all this live, and then they're messing.
Yeah, why
up,
would it have to be live?
Like it just blows my mind, right? If you're going to be spending hundreds of $1 millions on this, you pay someone a decent amount of money to make it fairly seamless. You don't have these large issues, right? This is like, which one are they? Are they?
You
really
would, yeah, like that's a good point for Malachi about the live thing. Of like, there is no possible way for you to determine whether a feed you're getting is actually live or recorded, as far as I'm aware, anyway. And so, if that's the case, why would the government need to stream it live if they're doing this cover up? Why not record it, go back, edit over anything that would give it away? And so, but like, no, it's not that people who know what they're talking about figured this out. It's all 12 IQ dipshits like you who figured it out. You did it. You blew the lid off the whole thing. Like, everyone who knows what they're talking about disagrees with you, but nah, you cracked it. You solved it.
At stuff, or are they really good at stuff and you just don't believe it?
Yeah, that is another thing. Like, it's a good point for Malachi. A lot of times conspiracists will have this like dualistic nature about the skill of their supposed cabal, of like they're so overwhelmingly powerful that they can get millions of people to coordinate and never ever screw up or leak anything, and everything always works. But you sitting at home watching YouTube can like see the flaws in the recording and figure it out, and they'll just fuck up all the time.
Are decently good because people like yourself just blindly believe that they're free falling around an object in a vacuum floating around for 20 years or whatever, but they have messed up. We caught them messing up. You've never even looked at it. So it's like you blindly believe.
Well, this is again. So like, I hate when this comes up, but like, and in conversation with someone like this, you'd have to say like, I cannot possibly have seen all the things that you think are relevant here. You haven't presented them, and so no, I have to talk about them. But no, I haven't seen the specific thing you're talking about. But if I had seen it and talked to somebody else, they would talk about a different thing, or maybe you would talk about a thing I don't know about, and keep shifting ground. Because every time there is something that Malachi can talk about, or I guess any globe model proponent can talk about, they'll shift the debate away from that. They never want to talk about something that the other person knows about.
So for you, this is effectively.
It doesn't matter how much you know. They'll always find a thing you don't know about.
That someone would lie on that scale. Therefore, it can't be true, and you haven't even researched it.
Well,
I
he has
would still
researched
be a ball
it.
earther if I did that as well. That's the easy way out.
The easy way out, yeah. Okay, sure.
And I would
sure,
be a
buddy.
flat earther if I wanted to have a claim to special knowledge based on loosely connected ideas.
Yeah, clap back,
that don't
get 'em.
make any sense. Right? This is all.
We're actually doing research.
No, you're not doing
No,
research.
You're not doing research, dude. Like you're not, right? Did you publish papers on this? Has it been peer reviewed? You're not doing research. You are Googling stuff, and you are trying to make it fit some sort of model that you've already concocted in your mind. This
You
is
think
the problem
something
I'm having
can't be
with this
true
debate.
unless it's peer reviewed?
Well, it's not research, right? You're not doing research. You're not publishing papers. That was the first part, by the way. He wants to go to the peer review thing. But also, yeah, peer review is actually a pretty good process. And I know people like this don't like peer review because peer review tends to find flaws with their statements because they're all nonsense. And so they're like, well, because I'm right and peer review rejected me, peer review as a concept must be illegitimate. By the way, we saw this with Del Bigtree, if you remember. This is not unique to any particular kind of conspiracism, except for pseudoscientific.
This is the problem. No, that's not how true works. I think that it's a higher confidence that it's a reliable source.
No,
But this
I
is
have
how-
a
this is-
peer-reviewed
this is-
paper
yeah.
that says peer review sucks.
No,
Literally.
you don't. By the way, no, you don't.
Literally. Okay,
Yeah, great.
so
That's awesome.
let's not bring it
So
up
this is
anymore.
the problem I'm having.
Yeah,
with
he's
this-
just
with
rejecting
this
peer review as a
discussion is
concept.
like-
Remember, like he's gonna, if you push people like this, they will systematically reject everything that could possibly be used to refute their position. He's like, okay, we've now removed Now we don't trust anything the government says. I know he explicitly said he's not saying that, but he is effectively operating like we can do that. We can disregard everything NASA says. We can disregard anything. We can disregard. Well, he hasn't said about the flight plan. We can disregard peer review. Right? What else are we going to be able to like completely throw out? And this is what you have to do to believe something as absurd as this.
There's really no like, and this is the thought I had going into this. There's really no sort of evidence of any kind that I could bring in here, because you would either say that it's been faked, that it is false, or that you have some counterpiece of evidence that totally blows it out of the water.
I wouldn't mention that last thing because it sounds like you're taking issue with counterexamples, but he notably he's not really doing that. He's alleging that it exists, and you're missing the fourth prong, which is simply erroneously claim a fallacy that he's engaging in.
There's nothing I could bring. No, you haven't researched. There's nothing I could bring to this.
What?
This is why I wanted to. This is why
no,
I
you
wanted
haven't.
To sit
you
here
haven't researched
and
it.
actually talk to you about your ideas. Talk to you about like how the whole thing works. Why it would like.
I would love to talk to this guy, in part because like I want to interrogate that. Like, oh, you have researched it, then you know about the north to south circumnavigation that happened. Not like it's illegal and it's never been tried or whatever. That it's already occurred.
Even come to be, because if it's a sphere Earth,
What?
we have super solid models about how spherical objects are made in space.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Nope.
So,
Just
you
saying
don't
no.
even know- I
Just
bet
saying
you
no.
Don't even
Just
know
saying
how
no.
they claimed the Earth was made.
Okay, cool. I don't.
So why
Does
did
that
you
have to
just
do with
invoke
anything?
it? Why'd you invoke
Because
it?
I don't have to answer that weird bet sort of thing
You
you have
brought
there,
it
right?
up. You brought it up.
I went through high school science class. I know what an accretion disk is. I know how gravity works, right? I get it. The thing
Okay.
is that this is my problem with this debate is like anything that I bring up, right? Gravity. How does gravity work? Are we going really fast upwards?
No, I know more about. Okay.
How does gravity work?
How does gravity
Like,
work? Answer the
this is
question. Yeah.
problem, is that
Before-
anything
I do.
that
By the way, it's an impossible task, right? Like this is you're to convince a flat earther is literally impossible. They're not open to evidence or argument. They're like not you can't argue with them in this way. Maybe an emotional thing can pull them out of it or whatever, but like they're not going to listen to arguments. He's correct. But I do like the way that Malachi is approaching this in a lot of instances. Like, all right, cool. We've done a bunch of the different things different points you need to hit as a globe model proponent. Now you get him with the next. Okay, I'm gonna hold you to this thing. Tell me a thing about how your model works. What is gravity? How can we explain that? He asked an open like, is this the case? Oh, you can say no. Okay, answer me. Tell me how this works. I think it's a good approach. Mostly, like there are a few instances where I like, nitpicks about how Malachi has been approaching this, but overall, I think he's been doing a great job.
bring up that you try to provide an answer to,
Doing
you're
almost
just going
everything,
to either say that my thing
I think,
is wrong because of some
the way it
crazy
should be
conspiracy that you brought
approached.
up, or that anyone of any sort of gravitas in the situation is lying, which is just super rude.
Let's.
I don't like rude as the impact there. Whoa, moderator, what the hell? He asked. Oh, maybe he's gonna get him to answer the question now. But like, he's getting his feet held to the flame. Make him answer the question.
There was how does gravity work?
Okay, he is doing that. Never mind. All right, moderator, we're cool.
Get into there. So we'll kick it over to Austin on that point.
Yeah. How does gravity work?
So, when you ask me how something works, you're saying that I'll just dismiss it. You're making positive claims. So you have the burden of proof. So when you say
hold on, he asked you a question.
You
How
don't
does it
even
work?
know what gravity is. So
do you want to answer the question?
Gravity before I have to explain how it works. Well, what is?
I would absolutely be like, I'm sorry, no.
Explain?
I asked you. I did not do any of these things. I asked you how gravity works in your model. If you want to tell me it's something different than what I think it is, I don't care. Just explain to me. Don't try to shuffle. Don't try to dodge the burden of proof again. Tell me how it's supposed to work, because this isn't. Remember, you have the burden of proof as well. You've admitted as such. I'm asking you a factor about your model. Remember, Austin felt comfortable imposing additional requirements on the globe model, like that if you can disprove the radius, then the globe model is false. Why? Malachi never acceded to that, nor does that make any sense. But now, just asking, hey, tell me anything about how you think the world is, and he's gonna dodge it. I don't know about that.
It's a force that moves objects towards the center of large masses.
That's not even what gravity is in your model anymore, because that model doesn't work. Gravity's not a force.
Well, hold on. We're not talking about my model.
Tell
me how gravity works in your model.
Things due to the displacement of mass, and it's not a force. And objects change direction based on geodesic paths without a force, directly against Newton, who said that it was a force. So
honestly, like, I'm not even listening to what he said. If I were in Malachi's shoes here, I'd be like, I don't care. We're not talking about my model. I asked you how gravity works in your model. I don't trust what you've said, since you've lied about almost everything so far. Instead, I want you to tell me about your model. Don't without reference to mine. Remember, you have a claim about how the world is. You need to tell me things about it.
Don't know what you believe again. That's the reoccurring
Here's
theme.
the ad hominem again.
I'm sorry, you were supposed to explain how gravity works.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
A slightly different approach, but perfect.
I don't have to explain something that isn't actually substantiated. Can you
Do you
tell
think
me
there's
how
no such thing as gravity?
Superman works?
Do you think there's no such thing as gravity?
How is it not substantiated?
Because, again, the model right now admits they don't even know what gravity is. So let's take the current model that you obviously don't know. It's called the theory of relativity.
But we understand
what it says
that
when
that if you jump, you get pulled back down to Earth. Or is that is the observation is that things tend to get attracted to the Earth. At a minimum, at human levels, we observe that. Explain to me what that is in the globe model, in the flat Earth model, because we have an explanation that works. I want to know how it works in yours.
And applied it to this assumed solar system with the ball moving around it, and in this solar
I
system,
hope Malachi keeps us up of just.
It was off by
no.
96%.
I'm not asking about the globe model. I'm asking about your model. How does gravity work?
If you go ask
in
any
the flat
physicist in the world worth their salt, what is gravity? They will tell you, we have no idea. All we know is that what we currently think it is wrong and incomplete. Any physicist in the world.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier at the beginning of this debate, right? This is the process of science.
Distracted.
This is the process of discovery. And just because someone gets something wrong doesn't mean you throw.
Yeah, I really think you need to just be like, none of that mattered. I asked you how gravity works in your model.
When you make a claim, you have to substantiate it. This is how. Let's talk.
But he didn't make a claim. He asked you a question. Now he's going to change the subject again.
If you have a theory, and then the evidence directly goes against your theory,
it doesn't.
You have to throw your theory out. That's
not
Richard
necessarily,
Feynman,
by the way.
Right? No, you don't throw it out. You refine it.
If you have a theory, that means it's been substantiated.
Can result in a viable explanation for the evidence.
Great. So how do we stand on a flat disc, or whatever your model is?
With
you
our
actually
feet.
haven't said. You actually haven't said what your model is.
Great thing to bring back up.
You haven't said anything about your worldview. I'm asking you to explain your worldview.
Yeah, we've spent all of this time. We've spent all of this time talking about the globe. Why have you not said anything about the flat Earth model?
Everyone here is very excited to hear.
Yeah.
How you think,
Malachi, doing great. Keep it up, buddy.
Standing on this planet, how does it work?
We're not on a planet. So the Earth is stationary.
Okay, what do you think the world is like?
With our feet. So it's a stationary topographical plane. It's geocentric cosmos. The Earth is in the center, as all evidence ever has shown us. Right? Your model claims
not true at all,
it just looks like that. It's just
we're not talking about my model. We're talking about yours.
Bro. Okay, the Earth's in the center, doesn't move. It's a topographical plane. Seemingly, we're in a torus field, an electromagnetic torus field, and everything moves within that around the Earth. You're more dense than the air, so you go down. Density is held together with electrostatics. Electrostatics is 10 to the 36 power stronger.
so this is another instance. I've seen this before. Flat earthers will often solve the gravity problem by misunderstanding other things. So they'll be like, oh, you're more dense than air. That's why you get pushed down. Density does, in fact, influence where things are in relation to each other on a vertical scale. So, like, if you see in water, things that are... If you put... a beach ball underwater, it'll float to the surface because it's less dense and, it gets buoyed up or whatever. However, that only works because gravity is acting on it. Denser things move towards the bottom of Earth, more to the center of Earth, as an effect of gravity. That is gravity. He's describing an effect of gravity, but he's treating it like it's density because he can't answer the gravity problem. So... Malachi has been responding pretty well to issues like this. Like, I don't know, he's sometimes hit or miss, but like he's been answering pretty well. I really hope that he points that out of like, hold on, density only solves half the problem. In zero gravity, density does not make things go up or down. There's no. This is what I meant about flat earthers thinking there's something special about down. Is why should denser objects be moved downwards as opposed to less dense things? Well, the reason is gravity, but gravity's a problem for them. So now, like, if they say gravity, okay, cool. Now tell me how gravity works. Like, what the hell is causing it?
Than gravity's even claimed to be. We have a downward electric current on the Earth, which is 10 microamps per meter. That's why we have a downward bias. That's why things go up and or down.
Hold on, I think he actually
said it. We have
a
downward electric current. Statics is 10 to the, so you go down. Density is held together with electrostatics. Electrostatics is 10 to the 36 power stronger than gravity's even claimed to be. We have a downward electric current on the Earth, which is 10 microamps per meter.
So he's saying instead of gravity,
that's why we have
it's
a downward bias. That's why
a
things
magnetic
go up
field?
and or down.
This is again where he's preying on. It's preying on not understanding. I don't know enough about that subject to know about what he's saying, which is almost certainly wildly inaccurate and not how anything works.
Relationship now substantiate your claim that we're on a ball bending convexly, omnidirectionally, and we're being pulled down in all directions by something called gravity that isn't defined.
Well, it is defined as the attraction of massive
gravity.
Of mass.
I'm gonna start pretty simple. Pulls everything towards the center of this large mass, and when we stand on the planet, gravity pulls us downwards. When you go
but
to
also
higher
down,
you actually are
down is a relative position. Down, if you're standing here, is this way, but if you're standing here, it's this way. Even though they're opposed, both are down relative to Earth.
Further away from the gravitational pull, so you're actually a little lighter. You can jump a little higher, right? Pretty neat. That was pretty easy, right? I understand that you're thinking that, oh, he doesn't know what gravity is, and oh, this is some sort of like conspiracy or something.
And by the way, Austin does think there's something special about down.
We have to we have to go against the force of gravity, right? And you think it's air density? Is that what you think it is? Air density?
Did
you say
everything?
Air density? The reason why we're standing on the ground, you're saying we're being pushed down by air.
Everything's intrinsically electrostatic, and then objects go up or down relative to their density relationship. That's provable. If you want to talk about science, I can scientifically test what I'm saying. I can take an object that's more dense than the air. I can drop it. It goes down. Then I can use a Van de Graaff generator to introduce electrostatics. I can make the object levitate
that's
just
understandable.
Go up. I can change its weight.
Wait, hold on. That's literally your example of begging the question. It's explainable under your model, therefore it's how it works. But it's explainable under the globe Earth model as well.
And change how fast it falls with electrostatics. All objects that exist are electrostatic. The air is electrostatic. Even in a vacuum, there's electrostatics. So I've now scientifically proven that electrostatics will change the weight of an object, how fast it falls, and its direction.
So does anyone see the mistake he's making here? There are forces that have to do with electrostatics, but those are not the only possible forces. He is assuming away there could be another force like gravity, and instead saying it must be the forces that have to do with electrostatics in the preferential direction of down for some reason. Why is it down and not up? Who knows? He hasn't even suggested as to why it would be like that. And because there is this one kind of force, there can be no other. We're going to assume there isn't another kind of force like gravity. But there are, as far as I'm aware, 4 forces in nature. There's the weak nuclear force, the strong nuclear force, gravity, and electromagnetism, if I remember correctly. He's only talking about the last one, but there are other forces.
You do the same thing with gravity. Can you give me an experiment that actually isolates gravity and proves
you haven't? Well, hold on. You haven't isolated electrostatics.
I'm actually like, this is exactly how I thought it was going to go, and I'm not thrilled about this. And Whitson seems to be fairly uncharitable.
Oh, it's
embarrassing.
Just a
regular conversation about what you believe and why. So
No, you're just not being very genuine about the
This guy,
interaction. Like,
from this
I
guy.
no,
explained
this
to
is
you.
no look. What I'm being is I'm being like straightforward on this, right? This is a fringe, weird belief that absolutely like very few people believe. I think this is what I think honestly. I think this whole thing started with a bunch of very sad men in basements trying to get a lot of very special knowledge because their lives suck. And so they're trying very, very hard to have claims to special knowledge to try to make themselves feel more important. I also think
Spiral.
that if you talk to any flat earther, any flat earthers, they're going to have completely radically different views of how this whole thing works.
Yeah,
Some of
that's
them
true
think
and
the
very
Illuminati
important.
did it. Some of them think
If
that
he had the time
the
for it, I don't begrudge Malachi for not harping on that more in this debate, even though I would have liked to have seen it, just because like he didn't have the latitude to do so. But to point out that to emphasize the lack of consistency across flat Earth belief is pretty important. It's not research, it's not a model, it's people insisting that it's not a globe, tricking themselves into thinking that they've proved that, and then making up the rest of it as they go along. I'm glad that he's mentioning it now. And again, I don't begrudge him for not going on about it more, but it is pretty important. I'm glad he's emphasizing it here at least.
there's aliens somewhere that have constructed all this. You yourself think that because NASA has some strange beginnings that it's like a giant lie constructed by I don't know who and for what purpose, right? This is all insane. So I wanted to sit here and get like a real understanding of what you're thinking and how you're thinking it. And it just seems to be like really snotty. So I would like to
You're
just
just
move
not
Oh,
to
it's
questions.
so true.
Yeah, you're running away
No, I
because
am
you know
listening, and this is there's no way. Look, as
running
someone
away.
who likes to debate, there's no way for me to possibly prepare for this because out of the thousands of different tiny little things that
Oh my
people on the
God,
internet bring up,
Malachi, I you were already doing so great. How are you doing better than that? Oh my God, yeah, this is exactly what I've been saying. Like he could not possibly prepare and know all the stuff because there's so many things that he would have to know about to disprove all of it. Could he have anticipated that this guy was going to be like gravity's just electrostatics? Especially because there's probably not another flat earther who believes that. Or it's certainly not like the consensus view. Holy shit, Malachi. What a king. All right.
about flat Earth,
What a legend.
you could have created a whole nother thousand. Because this is the kind of thing that you enjoy, and I understand that, right? I enjoy debate too, but you have this very strange position. You're trying to create these grand worldviews about it. You're trying to put a lot of people who work really hard, like the folks at NASA, into some strange, nefarious like purpose. Like this is what I thought it would be, and it's really frustrating to me because it's just so obvious to me.
you're just
What's
appealing
I
going
think
to
his
on.
conclusion there could have been a little stronger. I think he needed to impact like that diatribe was great. I think if you just ended it with something that was a little more impactful, like you know, obviously your presentation is not aimed at determining what's true about the world, or you're not interested in actually having a debate so much as broadcasting your ridiculous worldview or sharing your conspiracism or whatever. Like having some big impact as opposed to like petering off at the end would have been really really nice. But otherwise, like, oh God, Malachi, great job, phenomenal.
emotion. That was an appeal to
No,
emotion.
that's not
Yeah,
what
now
I'm
he's gonna
saying. I
weekly
don't
be
care.
like,
Stop that.
fallacy.
Nobody gives a shit. You heard me. Everyone heard me. We can move on to questions.
Oh,
Now
Malachi,
I gotta
great.
respond to some of that.
We
first.
No,
definitely
you
No,
don't.
you don't.
Well,
Like,
I will say
do
now,
you think you have special knowledge? Does it make you special?
Malachi, I
these are
fucking
all,
love you. All right.
That seems to be what's
Good
going
shit.
on.
well, I will
You
say
think you're doing a special thing.
I will say, Malachi, just where you did have a couple of minutes there to kind of
Yeah, I get why the moderator has to do that, but like, you could have cut it there.
To a minute and a half there to kind of give the closing thoughts, where it seems like that was kind of your kind of more of like a closing statement. So up to a minute and a half to you, Austin, on that there.
I guess another thing, like Monday morning quarterbacking, I guess, to when Austin tried to, oh, you're running away, would have been kind of nice to be like, listen, I know you're gonna tell yourself that to feel better about what's going on, but anyone who's listening to what was going on understands why it's useless to talk to you.
Okay.
Not maybe it wouldn't have been good to say, but
So I get that this
wanted to hear it.
conversation sounds crazy when you first hear it. Like when I first heard that people thought the Earth was flat, and I was confused.
Well, it's because
I
it
didn't
is
even
crazy, but it's
understand
alright.
it. I'm like, this is stupid. We have pictures of Earth from space, and that's where you are, frankly. That's cool. I can relate to that. I get it. You probably haven't researched it. It hasn't clicked in your mind that it's even like a thing that makes sense to research, and that's whatever. But I used to be there, and believe it or not, so did tens of millions of people that now know that the Earth is not the globe that they told us it is, because you can go test it. So we didn't get to the real specifics here, which is that the Earth claims to be a sphere with a radius value of 3,959 miles. That means, based on basic geometry, the Earth has to curve at a very specific rate.
Yeah,
It does
and you
not
can
do that, my
demonstrate
guy.
it.
I tested it all over the United
Almost
States.
certainly
It doesn't
flawed
do that.
in a
You
flawed
can see
way.
hundreds of miles away.
Do you like how he saved that for the conclusion? We saw this before with the biblical slavery stuff. It's really telling when someone saves their evidence for their conclusion. It for the moment where their opponent is unable to respond to it. Every time a flat earther attempts something like this, they do something fundamentally wrong, or just are bad at math, or misunderstand how things work. I've seen instances where they're like, "Oh, look, we can see this far," not taking into account they're like standing on a mountain and the elevation matters, or like being or calculating the curvature incorrectly, or like not accounting for atmospheric or atmospheric refraction or refraction across the surface of water or whatever else. They make all these mistakes, but of course we can't interrogate it because he's not mentioning what's specific about it, and he saved it for the end, for when Malachi is not going to be able to say anything more about it or be interested in saying anything about it.
Consistently, you can pull infrared out and see even further. The Earth is not what they said it is. You look into it, and the current model says, well, all evidence says we're in the center. We can't prove that we're going around the sun, but
Wait, what?
we're going around the sun, because if we weren't, then maybe God made it.
By the way, we can't. By the way, we can prove that. I've talked about this in previous instance. There was an issue with with the orbit of constellations, with orbits, excuse me, not of constellations, with orbits of planets when with a geocentric model. One of the issues that, as I was taught anyway, that would come up was that things didn't seem to orbit the Earth just like this. They seemed to like do kind of, they like had these epicycle things. Like they didn't rotate in the right way if the Earth is at the center, and they got so far as they had to have like 7 epicycles, where basically like Mars is acting as though it's orbiting around something, which is 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 orbiting around the Earth. And I think I skipped a couple of levels there. Though you can prove the relationship of the Earth and the Sun and the orbits there.
Special. So in reality, it's some weirdos that hate God.
But and of course, here's the Christian stuff. Remember, he was like, "Oh, I read it in a book. Doesn't mean it's true." But of course, this guy's like a whack job Christian.
Whatever. So like they run around making up stories,
and they believe it for a reason. This is something I got from searching for a flat Earth, a phenomenal video by Folding Ideas. One of the things he mentions, and I think is pretty poignant, is that flat earthers are not otherwise normal people who believe one wacky thing. They believe it for a reason. They believe it because of what it would prove about the rest of the world. Because if the Earth is flat and we live in divine fishbowl, then that means God is real, and that means their will must be correct and right. Like what that all of the things they extrapolate from their religious beliefs must also therefore be true. Now, it's not always religious, but very, very frequently, flat earthers tend to be, like, at the very least, believers in Christian mythos, even if they're not specifically Christians. I know that's weird, but the more I look into it, the more it does actually kind of make sense.
Most people are not in on the lie. In conclusion, most people believe the lie. Most of the people at NASA believe in the lie. Okay?
But they couldn't do their job if they believed it. I wish that we would have got
some more specifics, but per usual, if anyone
well, you avoided specifics.
The fallacies I listed off in the presentation.
Yeah. So again, this is the thing. Like, I listed these fallacies, and I accused my opponent of it. I'm accusing my opponent of doing this. This is literally the poisoning the well and the ad hominem that he took issue with. If you actually go back over these fallacies, you'll notice that Austin engaged in them constantly, and Malachi basically not at all. There were a couple of moments, but for the most part, no. And Austin was nonstop engaging in all the fallacies listed and a few others.
They were all used, and that's what always happens, effectively gaslighting. But I encourage the audience to actually look into some of the stuff I said. And
if you do, by the way, we did look into some of that stuff, and it proved you were a liar. So I don't know if you really want to encourage that.
All right. Well, thank you, Austin Whitsitt, and Malachi, for coming out and having this discussion tonight. We're going to kick it over to the Q&A and keep those
All right. So as per usual, we're going to skip the Q&A. I think it's been made obvious in previous instances why that makes sense. It's actually pretty nice. Malachi, on top of doing so well, you were also so kind to me, because now we're cutting it around the same time we normally end stream, and we have no more of the debate to go over, because Malachi basically just like, there's no point in going on, and I'm glad the moderator went along with it, because it's true. He got to the things he needed to get to. He made the points clear that needed to be made at the end, and then why are we here anymore? You're not engaging in this honestly, so why should I pretend that you are? Let me make clear the positions that we reached based on where we started and where we got to, and and we can end it there. I think Malachi did a phenomenal job. It is an impossible task to debate with a flat earther or any conspiracist, really, but if there is such a thing as doing a good job, Malachi did it. There were a couple of moments, as I mentioned, that I think like, you can quibble about whether, like, I would have liked to see it a little differently. I would have liked him to say a specific other thing or do something else, or like it would have been nice if he knew about this or could Google it or whatever. And like a couple of instances were like, maybe he didn't like push back in the right way, but it's one of those, like, it's impossible to avoid those pitfalls. If I were to engage in a flat Earth debate, doubtless I would do the same thing. It's like I said, it's impossible to avoid. So given that, like, I don't know, I think Malachi did an absolutely phenomenal job. Austin, well, I was gonna say like more dishonest than average flat earthers, but no, that's not true. At the very least, Austin made more arguments than the last one. Like, he at least attempted arguments to disprove the globe model. The last guy didn't even do that. Or I guess there's that, but holy shit, the smugness and like being so overwhelmingly wrong about basically everything he said, in addition to outright lying. I mean, maybe he doesn't know what he said was not true, but he claims to have researched this or whatever, and it's the foundation for what he's talking about. Remember, like, the Antarctic Treaty, issue, like, to know about this, you would have had to have seen, like, here's what's going on. And he went back and, like, and then later talked about it, knowing what he was saying was not true. He was like, oh, you're not allowed to go there. It's illegal to travel there. Oh, no, you can. Scientists do that all the time. You can do that. And, like, we did a quick Google of, like, can you go to the South Pole? And, you can. But, of course, he was using that to be like, well, you can't go to anywhere you want, which is the same thing as not being able to go there at all, even though that's not true at all. The Antarctic Treaty does not prevent tourists, military personnel, or scientific research from being present in Antarctica, but they require appropriate permit. Okay, so you need a permit. So? Why is that? Like, but he's acting as though it's literally illegal, and they're doing this giant cover-up. I would consider that a lie. Or acting as though the North-South, the Trans-Globe expedition didn't happen. And a quick Google search, it existed. And so, yeah, I mean, in conclusion, like, just the dishonesty was kind of overwhelming. This is what you get from people like this. I wonder if I can reach out to him. I would love to talk to Austin. It would be a shit show, and I would have a great time. But mostly, I want to be like, hey, I saw this debate where you said this would disprove your position. Here, it happened. Now what? Doubtless he would say, like, this is not true, or it's a lie, or like they made shit up, or they're government operatives or whatever. I'd have to read their, like, the entire history of all of these people's lives and everyone else that was alive at this time, and probably then some, to really disprove it. But, like, I want to see him squirm underneath the only thing he said as a mechanism of falsifiability for his position. Notice that was the only thing. That if you say NASA said a thing, nope, that's all made up and not true. If you talk about ships going over the horizon, no, well, he didn't even mention that. It's always default to conspiracism, or just be like, nope, not true, straw man, whatever. Like, just, in a way, it's the fallacy, right? To claim a fallacy in lieu of an argument. Well, it was fun. Tomorrow we're gonna do some more Magic stuff. I'm excited for that. I guess we're gonna be doing some deck building. I'll let you into that. I'm just kind of excited because we're gonna be doing something that. Okay, I'm hiding it like this. I'm really excited for tomorrow. I want to build a new deck. I saw a commander that I really found interesting. I was like, all right, let's build that. But one of the things that's cool about it is the commander's not out yet. It's in Wilds of Eldraine. So what that means is that there's no access to EDH rec, which, as I'll go into tomorrow, is going to be a lot of fun for the deck building process. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. As for now, thanks everyone so much for watching. I hope you had a good time, and I'll catch you next time. Don't forget, let people know. Trying to get this follower number up and be pretty cool. Remember, there's an incentive if we get partnered on Kick. I will absolutely destroy a perfectly good cup of tea and suffer through it for your pleasure. So please, I would very much appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, tell your friends, do whatever, the algorithm stuff. Do the thing. But thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.